But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With the rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. That's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0.
Self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest. Into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday, which is May the 4th. You know what that day is. May the 4th be with you. Maybe that's a clue to what we'll be talking about tonight. Well, this is a show where we get together and talk about all of those things we're not allowed to talk about, of course. We do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things we're not allowed to talk about? Well, aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Well, as we do this tonight, of course, you guys know the drill on this. I am just me, you are just you, but together we're us, and it makes an incredible thing. And so, of course, I have no inside sources on any of this stuff. I don't know anything. I just I like to watch news cycles and talk about propaganda and think about the world we live in and what reality really means. Right? That's a kind of an addendum to what Troubled Minds is all about. It's getting together and just having a discussion, right? And of course, in 2022. We're not allowed to have discussions anymore. It's got to be, poo flinging contests. It's got to be, mean tweets. It's got to be, tagging people to start fights. It's got to be things like this, right? But I disagree. I think all the rest of that is just distraction and garbage. And there are actual important things going on out there in the world that we should talk about. Well, tonight we're going to take a little detour on that and talk about some Star Wars, because why not, right? It is May the 4th, and it is the unofficial Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And so we're going to do that. We're going to suspend our troubled mind type of thing and just have a little fun, because sometimes you need to have a little fun. You need to be able to laugh at yourself. You need to be able to have fun with the world we live in. And well, if there's no fun, well, no, who wants to be here anyway, right? So if there's no fun to be had, let's make our own fun. And the way we do that is we get together and we talk about all those things I said. And the discussion goes a little like this, right? So I bring up the topic, and in this case, you guessed it, it is Star Wars. We're going to be talking about the Force tonight, and not just the Force. The ability of the Force to use a precognition. I'm sure you guys have heard the term precognition before, or precogs, which we'll get to in, of course, what's that movie with, oh boy, I already forgot the movie. It's Minority Report. Yes, that's the one, Minority Report, with Tom Cruise. And, of course, that was written by Philip K. Dick under a different name. Actually, it was the same name, I believe, Minority Report. In any case, right, the precogs, right? So they had them in, from Minority Report, they had them in this weird bath thing attached to all these cables and whatnot. And they were sort of doing pre-crime, right? Thought crimes, not necessarily thought crimes, but people that were about to commit crimes. The precogs were doing their thing in Minority Report, and trying to root out crime before it actually happened, right? Which is an interesting concept, and it's a little bit dystopian, Orwellian, terrifying, because of course, right? Just because somebody can see the future and says they can see the future, even with a good track record, what if they're wrong? What if they're wrong? So anyway, just some random thoughts before we get to Star Wars and the rest of this. But the conversation goes like this. I bring up a topic tonight. It's going to be the Force, Star Wars, precognition in regard to the Force, the Jedi have and the Sith have, the good guys, the bad guys in the Star Wars universe. And, what do you know about that? And a little more fun. We're talking about, since we're talking about Star Wars, also, what is your favorite Star Wars character? That's what's on my mind tonight. So a couple things to kind of get us started off. And let's see, what was I saying? I was saying the conversation, flinging poo, got dead cross, check that off the list. Check that off the list. What else do I got? Oh, that's right. We are streaming this live on YouTube, DLive, Rockfin, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. So I'm watching the chat in all those places, trying to incorporate your thoughts into the ideas as we go tonight. Because, as you know, if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that this show is open-ended, non-linear, and we can take it wherever we want to take it, wherever you want to take it, because it is sort of like what would you call it? Free. This is more free form, right? This is more about us sharing ideas, and that's the most important thing here. So if you want to be part of the show tonight, we are talking about Star Wars, and may the Force be with you. The Force, the power of the Force, and of course the ability to use that, the Force for precognition. We'll get to that. But what are your thoughts on this as we go? The number to call is 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. You can also click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. That's troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show that way as well. Doing a thing, hanging out, and just talking about amazing stuff per usual, right? Just a normal Wednesday on Troubled Minds. So what we're going to do then is that's what we'll do. We'll start the conversation with the Force precognition. We'll see where this takes us tonight. We can talk about all kinds of different stuff. I got some other stories to talk about precognition, the idea that you can see sort of a third sight, or we got Minority Report, we got some other stories, and of course we got hopefully your calls. So if you want to be part of this, again, phone numbers there, Discord link, troubledminds.org. There you go. All right, so since we are streaming and watching the chat in all the places, also we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. That's digital radio. That's KTLKDB. That's digital broadcasting is what that means. And of course, please actually join the Fringe Discord at fringe.fm/chat. I'm watching that over there as well, and trying to keep up with your thoughts there. And also, please download the Fringe app. You can find it at, of course, Apple or Android, the app stores, and it's completely free. It's the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds, and you just smash the play button at precisely 7 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Thursday. You get Troubled Minds, you get me, you get you, you get us, and, it's a very, very fun thing. So, okay, let's do it. Let's get to, this. We got Star Wars news, of course, right, because it is May the 4th. I talked about this particular article not that long ago on the news show. We do a news show on Monday and Friday, and at 3 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. And so this article came up, and I thought this is pretty fascinating. So let's go here. Let's go to space.com, right? And we're talking about hyperdrive, right? We're talking about the Millennium Falcon and the hyperdrive, and how the stars go streaking by when Han says, punch it, Chewie, and they punch it, and sometimes the Falcon goes, and sometimes it doesn't. Well, Well, when it does go, in the depiction in Star Wars, is you get that sort of stars blurring by you effect, right? That hyperdrive effect. Well, science says that's not actually the way this would work. So here we go. This is, again, from space.com. Headline is, Star Wars-style hyperdrive might produce a quantum glow and not star streaks. There we go, straight from the article. The view from the iconic Millennium Falcon of Star Wars during hyperdrive maneuvers would be far different than what science fiction portrays, scientists say. Rather than the iconic star streaks, we'd see a glow, either due to quantum subatomic fluctuations, as a new study proposes, or in previous work, perhaps due to the Doppler effect, shifting the visible wavelengths of stars into the X-ray range. Of course, absent a hyperdrive-equipped ship, it's been difficult to prove the glow theory, despite the fact that the quantum fluctuation idea dates back to the 1970s. But now, a new study proposes a way to finally see the quantum phenomenon in action, perhaps allowing scientists to simulate the so-called Unra Effect every few hours if all goes well. Quote, now at least we know there is a chance in our lifetimes where we might actually see this effect, said co-author Vivek Sudhir, assistant professor of mechanical engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That would be MIT, of course. They said in a university statement. Sudhir evoked Princess Leia's famous plea to Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope, when talking about the difficult work still facing his team. Quote, it's a hard experiment, and there's no guarantee that we'd be able to do it. But this idea is our nearest hope. The Unra Effect, more formally known as the Fulling-Davies Unra Effect, states that a body moving swiftly through the vacuum of space should feel warm radiation as a result of the acceleration. That radiation would come from quantum interactions and fluctuations in space, according to the statement. But to see this effect at the at the atomic level, the atom would have to accelerate to the speed of light in less than a millionth of a second. So, well, again, it remains to be seen what this actually means, because, like they said in the article, we don't actually have a Millennium Falcon. It's unfortunately the thing of a science fiction at this point. Well, I guess it depends on who you believe in secret space programs and all the rest of that. But, yeah, so there we go. I thought it was a fun way to start this show, because it is interesting that they pumped it into the news cycle a few days ago, because it's going to be Star Wars all the time. Oh, and by the way, if you're a Star Wars fan, they also released the trailer today for the upcoming 6-episode miniseries of, that's right, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and looked pretty good, I got to admit. And I'm, again, being a Gen X guy, a kid in the 80s, and just loving Star Wars since the moment I first saw the fake CGI back in the day, before there was CGI, actually, like stop motion space and ships and whatnot. It's always sort of tickled a warm part of my soul, that Star Wars, I tell you what. And unfortunately, more recently, it's been hit and miss. But I got to say, Disney Plus has had it right mostly. If you guys have seen The Mandalorian, and if you guys have seen the Book of Boba Fett, pretty good stuff. I haven't got all the way through the Book of Boba Fett yet, so I am actually, let's say, cautiously optimistic in regard to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming up. So end of May 21st, I believe they said, is when it comes out. So there we go. Lots of Star Wars news in May, and we're going to just ignore the part about Disney owning Star Wars now, and the Disney connections to some dark things. So we'll just leave that out and just pretend we're living in a world where none of that exists. We're going to talk about the fun stuff tonight. All right, so the questions tonight are this, all right, regarding, of course, the Force. The Force itself is, as you probably know, for the uninitiated, the Force is what gives a Jedi its power. Actually, let me just go to the clip, because we can explain this quite a bit better through Alec Guinness, the late, great Alec Guinness, and portraying Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars. This is the Force. But we're going to talk about the idea that you can see the future by using this mysterious power. This is the Force, in the words of the famous Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Alec Guinness.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
All right, fair enough, right? It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together. It's sort of a life force, for lack of a better term. The Force is probably just better than that, but you get it, right? It's all living things, all the rest of this. It's good. This is a good thing, and you see with the Force, they're doing all kinds of stuff in Star Wars, right? They're able to jump super high or fall at great distances and slow themselves down at the last bit and not hurt themselves. They're able to use the sort of let's say a low-key premonition or precognition to anticipate where somebody's going to shoot at them and be able to block the blaster bolt or the laser beam. If you're, again, for the uninitiated into Star Wars, if you're like, what the hell is he talking about? I hate Star Wars. Hang tight. You may like Star Wars after this. There's a lot of depth in this story, and it goes all the way back to good old Joseph Campbell and the mythologies and just this sort of cyclical stuff that is just fascinating, the hero's journey and all the rest of that stuff. So basically, look, the questions are like this. Regarding the Force and precognition, do you think there's something like this? We talked about this last year as well. Do you think there's something in the real world that's kind of like the Force? That's the first question. And so we talked about that concept and that notion kind of on and off on this show because it seems like you can say, like we've said, that maybe all actual living entities are connected somehow. Maybe there's some sort of something. We've talked about Indra's web and some of these fantastic mythologies of old that really describe the universe as really being bound together. And of course, all living things sort of being caught or as part of this huge galactic or even, let's say, string theory multi-universal web. Okay, so if this is the case and there is a force, do you think it exists? Do you think it's real? Do you think it is really an energy something that binds all living entities together, something to this effect? You tell me. That's the first question. What about the Force in the actual real world? Number two, the other question here as we get going is, what do you know about the Force and precognition? We're going to get to that as well. And precognition, of course, is just being able to just tell the future, right? Tell the future using this particular power. So this is from the Ministry of Truth, Wikipedia, and precognition is the psychic phenomenon of seeing or otherwise becoming directly aware of events in the future. As with other paranormal phenomena, there is no accepted scientific evidence that precognition is a real effect, and it is widely considered to be pseudoscience. Precognition also appears to violate the principle of causality, that an effect cannot occur before its cause. Precognition has been widely believed in throughout history. Despite the lack of scientific evidence, many people believe it to be real. It is still widely reported and remains a topic of research and discussion within the parapsychology community. All right, so there we go. There's what precognition actually means. It's being able to see the future, and they can do that in a lot of ways as a Jedi, right? Like sort of that like low key being precognition in short terms, like for a fight, where they sort of sense what's about to happen and they're able to beat their opponent to the punch because of their ability to know sort of in the short term what's going to go down before it goes down. So they seem to have this sort of super power in reflexes, but it's just because they can actually just sense things before they're about to happen. So interesting there, right? They talked about Anakin Skywalker in the original when he was a little baby back in a little baby boy. Oh, cute Jake Lloyd, pinch his cheeks, is so adorbs. When he was playing Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, right? And he had Jedi reflexes, Qui-Gon Jinn said. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, well, I'm not sure you'll like this show tonight, but maybe you will. So we're talking about Star Wars. We're talking about the Force, the power of the Force, and precognition. Yoda had some things to say about it, by the way, if you guys know who Yoda is. And damn it, Ronald, I see you in the chat. Why, Ronald? Why is it always got to be? All right, so having some more fun tonight. The other question I have for you is in regard to actual Star Wars itself, the Star Wars universe. Let's talk about characters. Let's talk about your favorite character from Star Wars and why that individual is your favorite. Because, like I said, why not just add that into the discussion tonight? Because it seems like it should be a lot of fun. I got a top 10 list, by the way, of the top 10 Star Wars characters of all time. So we can look at that as well and see actually if that actually pans out to what we think it should be. As always, right? You give us a top 10 and all of us us will write a top 10 list a different way. So we'll kind of match this one we got, and then we'll rage. We'll get so mad together. We'll be so Star Wars mad. We'll be nerding out. Okay, so then this idea of precognition, with Star Wars and the Force. Again, like I said, they kind of have Jedi and the Sith, which are the bad version of the Jedi. Again, for the uninitiated, I'll explain this like we've never seen this movie, because I just want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind here. What's up, IO Walks? It says, I believe it's 93%. What's up, I see in the chat there? Okay, 93 is pretty solid. I'll take that. But okay, so now this idea of precognition, and again, they do use it low-key in a fight, in that they're able to sense what's about to happen before it happens. And as Qui-Gon Jinn said again about Anakin Skywalker, he has Jedi reflexes, even as a boy with no training. Okay, so there's an interesting thing there. But then this idea of not just sort of a precognition in sense of a fight or sensing what's about to happen in the short term, apparently you're able to sort of through a meditative state sort of see the future. And I think that's a fascinating thing, because just like the Wikipedia article there said, the Ministry of Truth, it says, about the causation, right? Precognition also appears to violate the principle of causality, that an effect cannot occur before its cause. Well, I mean, given standard physics, of course not. But we're not talking about standard physics. This is Troubled Minds, after all. We don't have to do that. Nobody makes us do that. That's fun and all, but I think it's more fun to speculate on things that may be real. So precognition, right? Now, Yoda was able to sort of look into the future and help Luke Skywalker decide whether he should leave his training early or not. If you guys remember Empire Strikes Back, 1983, 'twas a good year. And I'll tell you what, the interesting part about it, to me, is, like I said, the causality effect. Now, if you can tell the future in any capacity whatsoever, and we talk about maybe differing timelines, or the way string theory works, or is it, sort of that idea that as we make decisions as conscious entities or beings, we end up sort of splitting off new universes all the time, like just peeling them off for every decision that's ever been made. And that's becomes mind-boggling, because that's a whole lot of universes out there. But that's where we're at tonight. That's where this starts, and the idea of the Force as a power, is it real? And what about the idea of precognition? How about that? Do you believe that's maybe a part of the Force itself, or do you think it's how about real in the real world? Precognition. Again, if you go to Wikipedia and you just Google this stuff, they'll go, this is pseudoscience. This is garbage. What are you guys talking about? What are you thinking about? Nobody believes this. Well, I don't know. I think there are people that actually not only believe it, that say they've had experiences regarding precognition. So that's what's on my mind tonight. That's what we're going to get to. I got some other stories about precogs. Again, we'll do Minority Report a little bit. We'll do some Yoda quotes, and the Force and precognition. And, of course, your favorite Star Wars character. That's what's on my mind. So I'll save my favorite Star Wars character till the end, because, well, I don't want to spoil the action here, and I encourage you guys to call. So one more time, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Questions tonight. Of course, before we begin, may the 4th be with you. And the questions are, what about the Force and precognition? Do you think the Force, it could be real in the actual world we live in? Number one. Number two, what about the Force and precognition? Do you think precognition itself, without the Force, is actually a thing here in our reality, not in the Star Wars universe? Those are the first couple questions. But then also, let's throw some spice into this and ask you what your favorite Star Wars character is. And if there's too many, we can do like a top 2 or a top 3 if you want to do that. That's totally cool. But there we go. I think that kind of sums us up and gets us right to where we need to be, which is, of course, right where the music comes in. So, there it is. Easy as that. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Well, all the time, it's troubled, because this is Troubled Minds. May the 4th be with you. We're talking about the Force and precognition. What do you know about it? What's your favorite Star Wars character? Is the Force real? Is precognition real? Or is all this just some fiction and some pseudoscience? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More Star Wars, the Force, precognition, more stories about telling the future, and of course your calls when we return. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss, that's right, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And of course, this is Troubled Minds after all, so we're going to take it a step further, and not just Star Wars. What about the idea of the Force being real? What about the idea of using the Force to tell the future? That's right, precognition. And, well, what do you think regarding this, not just in the Star Wars universe? What about our universe? Do you think precognition is actually a real thing or something else entirely? And then, of course, to add a nice spice to this, having a little bit of fun, what is your favorite Star Wars character? Maybe even the top 3 if you want to do that. So I got a list here. We'll compare and we'll boo and jeer because, of course, we all have our own favorites. And so we'll get into that as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think regarding the Force precognition? And what do you think about what Yoda has to say regarding that, which we'll get to in just a sec. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And we're doing our thing. So let's go to, looks like James in Michigan. What's up, Salcedo Paranormal? What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thanks for jumping in here. Appreciate it. I'm sure you've seen some Star Wars in your time. Have you?
Yeah, I saw the original trilogy growing up and everything, and saw a little bit of the prequels. And I don't really watch movies as much as I used to. Again, just because of my low vision, it's been changing. But it's funny. My favorite character, I can't really pick one or even two from the movies. But have you ever played either of the? There's these 2 games that I really loved. They were Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Okay, I did play those video games. It's been a long time. It's been a long time, but yeah, I'm with you. Go right ahead.
I just like those because you could really choose how you wanted your character to be and to act and everything. So you could really go any direction you wanted to go with. So that was a lot of fun in that way.
Yeah, I actually even played back in the day. They had the Star Wars the role-playing game, and if you want to really nerd out, that was a weird one. I played a bounty hunter at first, and it was before there were any Jedi in there. And then it was supposed to take place in the Star Wars universe where there were no Jedi. It was after the Empire had taken over. The rest of that before sometime between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So there were no Jedi, but then they changed it so that everybody could be a Jedi, and it basically ruined the game. Hey, like who knew? Who knew?
Wow.
Yeah, but when it first started, that was like almost a lottery process. It was like if you rolled up a character, you had like a 1 in 1.7 million chance of like your actual character being able to have Jedi powers. So it was really super stupid because the people that had like those super rare accounts were just like selling them for thousands of dollars, of course. And so then they just changed that, and then everybody could be a Jedi. But anyway, I digress a little bit on the video games. But so what are your thoughts here regarding, let's say, the Old Republic? You can add that into the conversation, of course, because we'll take this anywhere you want to take it. But what about precognition and the Force? You're familiar with maybe what Yoda said regarding that, and we'll let you go with that, and I'll get into what he said after you're done. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was just thinking of if I've ever really had any precognition. But it made me think of something I saw actually in the first one of those what they call KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic one. That game where the main character would have visions of the worlds that he had to go to while he was sleeping. And which is kind of ironic in a way because I've talked about this before, I've had several dreams over the years of places that I had never been to in person before I went there in person. So I'd have a dream about a place that I didn't recognize, and then months or even years later, I ended up going there in person. And it was always different circumstances. In the dreams, I was always alone. But then obviously when I was there in person, there was always people around me. But I just wonder if that was some form of that. Even if it was more of an out-of-body thing, if these things can mix together, which is, I think, an interesting possibility there.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I actually didn't realize in the story of the Old Republic, this is how long it's been, or maybe we played different games, about the main character there dreaming of precognitive type stuff. I have no idea. And like Jennifer said in the chat there too, like the expanded universe and what's canon and what's not anymore. Disney bought it and stripped out a bunch of that old stuff. So hell, I don't even know what's going on. So it's hard for me to keep up with just the basics here. But okay, so dreaming and precognition, I think, is super fascinating because you, like you said, maybe have actually experienced this. You dreamt of places you'd never been, and then eventually you ended up going to those places. That's pretty nuts. So what are you trying to tell me, James? Are you like a low-key Jedi or something? What's going on here?
If I am, then that's basically the powers that I have, is just weird dreams of weird places that I don't know about until a long time later. So that's I definitely don't have any other abilities that I'm aware of, especially not in the. I'm definitely not. Do not look like a Jedi. I'll just say that as well. Going back to my joke in the chat there.
Hey man, the Jedi come in all shapes and sizes. Don't you worry about that, my friend. All right, so regarding sort of seeing into the future with, I think it's interesting, the Force, right? A lot of people consider it sort of like a combat ability. Like I said, sort of heightened reflexes, and that you can kind of see things before they happen, right? And so it is sort of a very toned down version of precognition. It seems like you got super reflexes. You just know what stuff's about to happen, so you're able to beat it to the punch, right? But then there's also this other thing that Yoda was actually able to, if you remember this in Empire Strikes Back, he was actually able to see the future for Luke Skywalker when Luke dreamt of a cloud city and his friends were in trouble, if you remember that scene.
Yeah, vaguely, yeah, a little bit. So yeah, Yoda is definitely quite the case there of just all the different powers that one can have.
Yeah, Yoda's the man. Actually, let me play that clip. Let me refresh your memory, because this is one of those ones that's super iconic, and that you got Luke Skywalker on the planet Dagobah training with Yoda, who's like the cranky old master that's like, wrapping the sticks across your knuckles, and you're young and you're stupid, you don't know anything, right? He didn't actually say that, but that was kind of his attitude toward Luke, right? Like, you're just always dreaming, like, get your mind here, focus on the now, don't worry about this other stuff. But here we go. This is the scene from the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, and Yoda actually talking about these premonitions. Here you go. I put it on so you can hear it, James.
Through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone.
Han? Leia!
Control. You must bring control.
There you go. So interestingly, there's more to that. I'll play the rest of that in just a little bit here. But he says through the Force, you'll be able to see other places, other times, the past, the future. And, well, there you go. There's a precognition in the Force, and through, of course, Jedi Master Yoda. Does that jog your memory on that particular scene, or have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is something, because it just makes me think of how many people have dreams of places that seem strange to them. They don't know. Of course, there's always the possibility, and I don't mean to be bringing this to like a dream episode necessarily. But that's just kind of where my mind is going with this right now. But it seems like people have dreams of places that they don't recognize, and I'm sure in some cases it can just be our minds making things up. But then I wonder if that's the case every time. So maybe there's more people out there that have these abilities than they know.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of digging, looking for some theories here and some things that have actually happened, right? And it seems like this is not incredibly rare for people to have this sort of thing happen. And there's even been some instances of people sort of sensing impending doom when there's huge tragedies about to happen. So we'll get to that as well. Kind of take it back to the real world and look at precognition here. But okay, so the craziest part about this, again, so back to causality and precognition, right? So if being able to tell the future sort of robs us of, our free will, and that there's, everything is predetermined, then you could tell the future because it's a linear thing, right? But what if it's not? And what if, again, the future, is something like always in motion? And so it's difficult to see what's in the future, which I'll play that clip in just a sec. But what's your thought on that? So causality and precognition in terms of, let's say, is everything predestined? Do you think? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I have a hard time with the idea that everything is that way, but it does seem like maybe there are general courses that events can follow. So it's hard to see. I just did think of one other time, though, that something odd happened that was not a dream. And I don't know if this is necessarily precognition or not. There was this one night I was sitting here at home, and I got this feeling that something bad had happened somewhere else. Didn't know what it was. And eventually the feeling went away. Well, the next day I checked online with friends. One friend had their cat pass away that same night, at right around that time. Another person had a family member pass that same night. I had not been aware of either of these things. I don't know what that was.
And so it's almost like you were tuned into something. Maybe the Force was reaching out to you, or you were reaching out with the Force. Who knows, man? I think that's why we talk about this stuff, because you never really know. But that's not the only thing. Like people know when something terrible happens. It happens all the time. In especially when people pass away, it's a sort of a powerful thing happening in your life, and clearly in somebody else's life when they do pass. People tend to know. They're like, well, I knew. For some reason, I just knew it happened, right? Even though I wasn't there. Like, you hear stories like that a lot. And of course, James, doing the paranormal podcast, I'm sure you've heard sort of similar stories anyway. And that kind of that powerful passing of people when they leave the realm, let's say, that other people just kind of know intuitively, like it is maybe like a strand in a web of connections between people was sort of cut, and you feel it, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and I think even if you want to get to other aspects of the Force, even outside of precognition, if you think of I believe it's after, it's in the Return of the Jedi, where, at the end of the movie, after everything is basically okay, who does Luke see nearby? There's, I think, 2 or 3 different characters he sees nearby that are supposedly dead already at that point. You remember that? Yeah.
At the very end. Let's not totally spoil this for the people that have never seen a 40-year-old movie, but yes, I do remember. I do remember. Okay, so meaning what? That maybe they were... What were they doing? Were they time traveling? Were they using what was going on there, you think?
That's the question. What exactly does the Force let them do? Was that them somehow now existing in that Force, or using it, or both? Or, time traveled, or time viewing different times, viewing him in the future? That's an interesting one, because then you could go back and say, well, yeah, those other points, and obviously this, I don't think there's many signs of this in the movies, but you could then say, even especially like maybe with Yoda, he had a feeling that things could work out if he helped, Luke. And maybe he even saw, things working out. But he just had to help to make sure that they did.
Yeah, that's the other part that's unclear. Like how much were are the Jedi Masters meddling with like the time space continuum or whatever, like actual events and the history or whatever. That's an interesting thought too. Yeah, I don't know. Lots to this. Amazing stuff. James, also, what are your favorite Star Wars characters or singular character? If you want to do a top three, go right ahead.
I mean, Yoda is up there partly because of his lines, partly because of how just even in that Empire Strikes Back, the way he's training, that he's doing this for good, but he's definitely, like you said, he has that cranky old master kind of vibe to him, but there's reasons, especially if he's been through a lot by that point already. So but yeah, so I always liked Yoda. I always liked Han Solo.
Give me a good blaster. Yeah, because
he didn't quite buy into the whole Jedi thing, He, at least at first, and even then, I mean, he obviously works with them, but he's kind of pokes fun at the whole thing in a way at times. I kind of like that too.
Yeah, the old hotshot skeptic, right? It's hard to hate the hotshot skeptic, especially when they just keep pulling stuff off that seems magical in their own right. You're like, I wonder what's really going on here. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. Definitely in my, let's say, top 10. those two characters. What else you got? Anybody else there? Or is that enough to round it out for you?
I did like Qui-Gon. I did like him a lot. From the Phantom Menace, that was like the one that I remember seeing, even though there were other things in that movie that I really didn't care for. I liked him a lot. And characters I didn't care for. I'm guessing some people could probably think of which character I'm thinking of. But I liked that character a lot, just because of he was working within the Order, but he also was doing things the way he thought was best, not what the Order thought was best.
Exactly. The free-thinking Jedi, the Rockfin Jedi. Yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely up there. I think in the Phantom Menace, in my opinion, he saved that movie. Without Qui-Gon Jinn and Liam Neeson playing him, I think that movie was in big trouble. Big trouble. So they lucked out. But I'm not going to spoil it, but it's unfortunate that he didn't end up in a lot of Star Wars movies. If you can catch the meaning of the spoiler there. But okay, I appreciate it, James. You're the best, brother. Always a pleasure. Thanks for popping in here and saving my ass night after night. James here, a good friend of mine, good friend of the show's. He's got a podcast called Salcedo Paranormal. He's the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. You can find him here with us quite often, and like I said, on the regular, saving my butt, and I appreciate it very much, my friend. Please give him a follow. Link is in the description down below, and he streams Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and talks about all things paranormal. So always a pleasure, James. Thanks for piping in, and you're welcome to stay or hang out or dip back in whenever you want, okay? You know the drill.
Yeah, I'll stay and listen. Yep.
Okay,
good.
Appreciate it.
I'll stop in when I can.
Right on. Appreciate it very much. All right, so let's go back to this. We got a question over on Rockfan. Kay Farnan says, "What's the Force?" And I think that's why we got to take this a little bit slowly, because we may have seen these movies like 100 times, personally or whatever, but there are people that may not know what the hell we're talking about. So let's backtrack just real quick. What is the Force? We're talking about the Force tonight. It is, of course, May the 4th, and I have to say, because why not? May the 4th be with you. The Force is, of course, what gives the Jedi its power. Let's hear in the actual words of Obi-Wan Kenobi what the Force actually is, and then we'll move on to more precognition regarding this mysterious power from the Star Wars universe.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
There you go. It's an energy field, right? Generated by all the living things. It surrounds us, binds us, penetrates us, all the good stuff, right? All right, so there you go. There's this mysterious power of the Force. And, I think we've talked about this in the last, a year ago, probably tomorrow, I think, because we were a day late and $1 short on the May the 4th. We did the Revenge of the 5th. But, so approximately a year ago, we talked about, is the Force real? Is it a real phenomenon here in the real world and not the fictional Star Wars world? But then I think it's it's interesting to kind of pare down some of the ideas of the Force in their particular, let's say, power sets. And so there you go. There's that one's for K. Farnan and the Force. What's up? I see you on Rockfin, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us. Even though you may be confused about Star Wars and what the hell we're talking about, it's all good. All right, so there we go. Now let's get to Yoda in that second part of the precognition. As I played for James there, you saw that Luke was sort of in training to become a Jedi Knight at the time. He was just learning, kind of cutting his teeth on telekinesis. He was floating rocks around. He could finally move things with his mind, right? He was doing a handstand and had R2 on his feet. R2 is his droid, R2-D2, and he's like sort of in a meditative state, kind of feeling that power of the Force flow through him, and sort of in that sort of a calm, peaceful, meditative state. But once he was there, sort of in that Zen moment, he started to see the future. He started to see sort of his friends in trouble in a place he'd never been to or never seen. And so this is how the rest of that scene goes. And this is what I'm talking about tonight. This was the first scene I thought of when I was like, okay, what have we not talked about a ton regarding the Force? And I think this is probably one of them. Precognition. So this is what Yoda said regarding Luke's vision. And this is, there we go, the next part of that actual scene.
I saw a city in the clouds.
Friends you have there.
They were in pain.
It is the future you see.
Future? Will they die?
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
I've got to go to them.
Decide you must, how to serve them best. If you leave now, help them you could, but you will destroy all for which they have fought and suffered.
There you go. The ominous warning from the grizzled old veteran, the old Jedi Master Teacher Yoda, saying, hey, things are not always as they seem, right? And again, it also goes back to premonitions and causation as well, right? So in that sense, was this stuff going to happen that Luke foresaw in his sort of a trance-like vision with the Force flowing through him? Or did his sort of Oedipus complex style, him running off Cavalier to help save them, actually by some manner actually cause their suffering to happen, right? And I guess, well, that's the question. That's the question regarding precognition, causation, and all the rest of this. Looking to hear your thoughts. What do you know about the Force? What do you know about Yoda? And of course, may the Fourth be with you. And what do you know about a precognition? Do you think that this is a real thing? Not just with the Force, of course, in the Star Wars universe, but do you think it's a real thing with people? And we'll get to some real stories as well tonight. We'll get to precogs from Minority Report, and of course pre-crime and all the rest of this. Well, as you know, open-ended, non-linear. Wherever you want to take it, we're going to take it. And I'm ready for you. As long as you kind of keep it mostly on topic, we're good to go. Let's hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And so that's the thing, right? Regarding causation and regarding precognition, what kind of person are you? Do you believe that everything is predestined? And do you believe that if you could tell the future, you're telling a future that's already been written, and we're just playing out these parts sort of like we're in a play or something, and there's nothing we could do to change that future? Or do you think it's more complicated than that? Even in, of course, it's fiction, but Jedi Master Yoda said, Luke asked, are my friends in danger? They're going to die. And Yoda said, difficult to see. Always in motion is the future. So, well, what does that mean? What does that mean regarding string theory, causation, precognition? What about the fact that things may already be predetermined? Yes, there we go. I think that's probably a good way to start tonight. Thanks again to James for breaking the ice and getting a call in here. And we're also wondering about your favorite Star Wars characters. There you go. There we go. I think it's probably a good way to go. As we get through this, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And you can reach the show and me at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. More, May the 4th, the Force Precognition and your calls when we return. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing that. Through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
So
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday night, May the 4th, and so may the 4th be with you. As you know, this show is a show where we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. We do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may ask? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. As always, we're doing this live to include you. We're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter. And, of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls as we discuss, that's right, Star Wars. Why not, right? Hey, it's only May the 4th, and May the 4th be with you. So why not? We're talking about the Force tonight. We're talking about precognition. If you remember back in Empire Strikes Back in 1983, Yoda actually had a moment with Luke Skywalker when they were training together. Yoda being the grizzled old veteran, the Jedi Master, training the young whippersnapper Luke, who was impatient and wanted to go save the galaxy, and all the rest of that, right? But of course, Yoda was trying his best to slow him down. And in the process, Luke had a moment, sort of a Zen moment through the Force, where he actually was able to see the future. And the future he saw was his friends in a city in the clouds in pain. And he wasn't sure if he was actually seeing something that was real or something that was not. Yoda confirmed to him he saw it also, and he said, the future you see. And Luke asked him, will my friends die? Yoda said, difficult to see. Always in motion is the future. And that to me is a fascinating part when we talk about precognition. Of course, we're talking about Jedis and the Force tonight, but if you take precognition to its roots here, it is about causality. It is about the idea that maybe things are or are not predetermined in some ways, or, well, throw it all out and go straight to string theory. What are your thoughts on this? As we do this, I'd love to hear what you have to say. 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. And just like this, let's go to Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker, and shout out Boston. Hey, Beantown, what's up, brother? How are you?
Beantown, go Seas, go Celtics.
Absolutely. What's happening, man?
We're on a run. Bleed green. We're on a run right now.
Oh, is it happening? I don't watch the NBA, so I
we just
no
swept the Nets. Clean sweep of of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and the Nets the last series. I think they might have played tonight, or last night, but I was working.
Wow,
but,
no
yeah,
kidding.
Happy Star Wars Day. Anyways,
yeah, you too. You too, man. Definitely. So what do you know about? I'm sure you've seen some Star Wars. You watch a little Star Wars in your time?
I've seen a little Star Wars. I gotta be honest though. It's probably I don't want to say I'm like a poser with Star Wars stuff because I'm not gonna pretend for anybody. But I consider myself to be a nerd, but like I just don't care that much about Star Wars, to be honest. I've seen them all, but like I'm in a weird age where. So I was like born in '89. So when the new ones came out, I was probably like when the prequels came out, I was probably 10 or 11 range. So I didn't really care about Star Wars beforehand. Like they were kind of old to me. My core fandom was like superheroes and X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons and Batman and Power Rangers and stuff. And it just it felt old to me at the time. And then the new ones just didn't really click. I remember like being alive during the fandom of it, and like Bosco Drugs having like the Halloween aisle and being a bunch of Darth Maul double lightsabers and Darth Maul costumes and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, like it's just so when people bring up like, oh, we haven't seen a good Star Wars in so long, I think to myself, and it's a hot take, extremely hot. I know what I'm saying. It's like sacrilege, but my question is like, are we sure Star Wars is good? Like. It's influential. It's extremely influential. But are we sure it's good? I don't know. Is the reason why it hasn't been good for so long because it's like really not that great? Like my favorite one is Rogue One for sure, and it's not even that close. And I think I might like the J.J. Abrams ones the most, which is like I know it's a bad take to say. I know it's what I'm saying is stupid to everyone listeing.
We're no longer friends, Eric.
I don't know. It's so weird. I'm in a weird age. I felt in between like the original audience and the prequel audience. So I've tried to watch it. I'm gonna have watched them, but just and I like the idea. I like when people talk about Star Wars. I like the Star Wars fandom. I appreciate the fandom of it, but it's just I don't fall in love with it as much as I do with other nerd culture stuff, you know. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Sorry to. I wanted to save that take for later in the show because I don't want to like poop on everything. But hopefully some more diehard fans will call after me and kind of put me in my place here. But,
yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, so my favorite.
It's totally okay. So I'm with you. I'm with you real quick on Rogue One. I thought that was fantastic, and it is interesting that you say that it's sort of a demographic thing. Like you were kind of not born in the Star Wars prime time, which would have been like that early '80s sort of situation, right, where you were formative years type thing. So like it was old movies to you, and you're like, whatever. And then
so my prequels,
go ahead.
My like biggest pastime as a kid was playing with action figures. I would just mainly like Power Rangers and Batman because those are the core things when I was at the time. But my favorite thing is just like daydreaming, just playing pretend with action figures and just creating a whole world of stuff. So I had a whole ton of Star Wars stuff, but they were like my hand-me-down toys, and I had a bunch of Lego Star Wars things that were already built, and like a bunch of old Star Wars toys from my uncles and stuff. And it was like they were like considered the older toys from these older movies, like that. And now growing up, I'm a huge sci-fi fan and stuff, so I understand the importance of Star Wars. I get it. I know what I'm saying is a hot take and it's dumb, but just like I'm being honest with you guys. You know, it's Star Wars Day. This is not a time to be honest. Then I don't know when it is. Maybe Revenge of the Sith tomorrow. But you know,
not if we don't get any calls tonight. We ain't doing Revenge of the Fifth tomorrow. we'll
yeah, we'll get calls. People like to wait to the end. You know. But yeah, I think it's because I don't love Luke Skywalker as a character. I always thought he was kind of whiny and like really lame. Like I leaned more towards being a Han Solo guy. Like when I'm watching these shows or when I'm like playing superhero, playing pretend as a kid, I'm the hero of the show. Like I want to identify with the main character of the show, and I just consider Luke to be just kind of whiny and wimpy and just I don't know. I didn't resonate with him, so that kind of took me off of it a little bit. So I don't know who my favorite characters would be. Like I like Han, I like Chewie, Lando's cool. K2SO from Rogue One is pretty funny. Darth Maul is like really cool with the double lightsaber. Like that was like one of the coolest things from like being 10 or 11 and tangentially like not really caring, but being alive during the prequel phase, during the prequel hype. The double lightsaber is just universally pretty badass, you know. But yes, I mean, as far as like, you want to talk about the Force a little bit, what the Force is and precog and stuff?
Yeah. So what about, again, it's interesting too, like, so regarding Yoda, right? So, like, I always find this.
Oh yeah, Yoda too.
Yeah, when we've talked about, so we've done this in the past as well on different shows regarding, precognition and seeing the future and timelines, and how does this actually work? Is it all about causality because everything's locked into, like, baked into the cake and there's only one cake, or is it more complicated? Because even Master Yoda in that, again, it's fiction, but it fascinates the hell out of me that he said, he's asked, are they going to die? Luke asked him, whiny little Luke, are they going to die, Master Yoda? and Yoda says, he kind of does like a moment of meditation, contemplation for just a moment. And he says, difficult to see because always in motion is the future. And that to me drives me nuts about the future. It's like, so if we have free will, that would be the case, wouldn't it? Because you don't know sort of which zigzag happens in life. You just never know. But what are your thoughts on that? Precognition, the Force, and let's say causality, and is it baked into the cake, or do you think it's something far more complicated than that?
It's tough because I always go straight to the time isn't real. Time is just like a construct that it's how the human filter is experiencing reality, but with that there is kind of like a momentum of the events in your life, at least from your perspective. Like, that's kind of what I believe karma is more of your trajectory, how you're kind of flowing through possible realities. Like, if kind of everything is happening all at once, or if every potential reality is all happening at the same time, I think I kind of visualize it like we're kind of flowing from one event to the next, or we're kind of in a big synchronicity or a big, like, strong, not a deja vu, but that type of rush, that type of synchronicity rush where you get, where like, whoa, something major just happened, is when you're kind of adjusting your karma or your life flow, your trajectory of where you would be headed. Like, if your karma is that you've done the same event over and over and over again, you escaping this like time runnel that you're in would be like, ooh, big synchronicity moment, So with all that, I kind of view the idea that time is all happening at once, but we're experiencing it as some type of flow trajectory. I see it as like almost a toroidal, like whirling, bubbling shape almost. So with that, you can see the potential probabilities of events, the things that if nothing changes, your trajectory, your karma is kind of dragging you to this one of infinite potentialities. But because you control your reality, you have infinite potential realities. It's not set in stone, and the act of knowing it might change it. So the fact that you saw this potential reality might change if ever coming true. So that's kind of how I feel when I hear Yoda say that. It's like, yeah, this is a future potential reality. This is probable if nothing changes. If everything goes as it is right now, most likely, it's almost like raindrops kind of dripping down a glass, like a window. Like they're kind of, you can kind of see the trajectory of how the raindrop is gonna fall down the window. But something can come, you can take your finger and move that drop, and it completely changes it, But without that big act, it's just, you can kind of see where it's going to land. And that's kind of what he's saying, is without you intervening, without you trying to save the day, without your heroes at journey type big action, then yeah, they're probably going to die. But nothing's set in stone. Everything's in motion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and as much as it can make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the craziest part about this is, as much as it can make sense. Because again, so I think you and I have talked about this a few times on this show and even off the show, we talk about this from time to time, is that, so what causes those moments that sort of tip and change, right? Change that potentiality, as you say, of a future that may not be the future until something happens. Real quick, Tom in the chat says, your free will and everybody else's free will is constantly shaping the future, and as such, it can be changed, just not to our liking. You get what you get, like cards in a poker game. So, but if that's the case, then, so what are those moments that sort of change the future zeitgeist, the future of, everything? It's a wild thought to just consider from here to there. Yeah, go ahead.
To his point, that's kind of the, what I'm trying to talk about is kind of the reconciliation of free will and destiny. Like, destiny is this karmic your karmic trajectory. Like unless you intervene directly, this is kind of the flow, even from maybe previous lives. Like one interpretation of karma, it's not like you did this thing bad, so you're being punished by karma in your next life. Karma is just, it's these X events, this event pushes you in this direction, and that's what karma is. It's not that you're being punished, it's your trajectory from lifetime to lifetime. So that's kind of the destiny, but then your free will is that at any moment you can change that. There's infinite potential reality, so at any moment you can change it. And I think what those moments are moments of novelty. And that's like what Terence McKenna talked about a lot, is these, the singularity being infinite novelty meeting perfect, or infinite complexity meeting like infinite novelty. I forget what he says, but it's the idea of being the universe is a novelty making machine. What we're trying to do is novelty. So we're rewarded by doing novel things. So when I'm not saying that I do this. I'm a victim of doing the same thing over and over again, living the same monotonous life, working, listening to the show, going home and doing nothing, But when you do something novel, when you do something outside your comfort zone, when you like go on a date or just like call into a show or do something cool outside of your usual trajectory, that's when you'll see good stuff happening. And that's kind of those when you take your finger and swipe the raindrop, that changes the flow of where that water's running, Those are those moments, I think, that can kind of change that propulsion from your destiny type of things. But as far as like what the Force is, you read the Tesla quote during the break, or was that
the Tesla quote. Yeah, Tesla quote. I did read it. I think it's during the break. I'll find it real quick and spit that out.
I got it.
You got it. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite quote, I think. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. That's from Tesla. And that's kind of what that's kind of the muse. That's like get into that flow state, and kind of something can kind of come through you. Just how artists and visionaries and great minds say that their best thoughts they don't come from outside of them. Like they penetrated into some type of knowledge, or some, like they just open themselves up just to the answers. Or that can be considered like the universe or the source or the thing that you try to get into in a meditative state. I know in like Bhakti Yoga with like the Ram Dass people that they talk about, they call it loving awareness, but it's basically like big C consciousness. It's like consciousness of the universe or God or the source or the all or the monad. What do you want? Like that's that one thing, that all, that singularity. And then, so when we talk about that Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon analogy with the white light going through the triangle, which is the prism, in forming the rainbow. The rainbow is our subjective realities. The white light's the source, and we're the prism. So the prism is the filter. It's all our subjective filters filtering reality. And when people meditate, when people get into these kind of trance states or state try to become more one with the source, they're trying to get the filter out of the way, get the ego out of the way, and get more down to just what the white light is. Trying to like kind of getting more to what that source energy is. And I think in that you can catch glimpses of things outside of time. So they might not come true because of what we just talked about, but you're outside of the limitations of just the five senses that you're normally functioning with, or the normal small prism through which that white light is filtered through. You go beyond that, you go to the source of all the information, and you can catch different things. That's when people have these weird powers or catch these precog moments and that kind of stuff. And I think that's what the meditation does, that these monks who do all these crazy practices, these intense practices to train their body to remove not ego, but like the filter, to try to get closer to that source. And then that creates all kind of powers like chi or energy or prana energy, these actual powers, these like physical powers that can light leaves on fire and make people float, and all kind of stuff that you would imagine some type of Jedi warrior doing, I'm rambling. What do you think about that?
No, you're good. Like I always say too, I'm like, hey, look, if you ain't floating and glowing, I'm not going to take everything you say as gospel. And I don't mean you personally. I just mean like all the people out there that have the answers, all the people with the answers, the answers people, right? I'm like, hey, if you can't do something incredibly special like that, I'm going to just chalk you down as just another like a raindrop in an ocean of raindrops, right? And that's just the way it is. And that's fine. I think that, if you want to be special in a rainstorm, then, be a hurricane of rain or something, right? I mean, like you got to be something.
That's kind of what it is. Like it's doing the exact opposite. It's not trying, like the ones who are trying to be special, like who are trying to be a raindrop in a giant ocean, are not the gurus to listen to. Like the real gurus are saying that you are not the raindrop, you are the ocean, and that's what I'm talking about. Like the white light is the ocean, and so it's getting closer to the source. Like when you meditate, you try to get, like Ram Dass would say, get closer to loving awareness, and that's that all. That's that like source energy. That's the ocean. You remove the rain. You remember that you're not a raindrop. You are part of the source energy, and in that you can tap into these different powers, these different force powers, if you will, or precog stuff. And it's tough. Like I've never seen anybody with powers, and a lot of it's just intellectual stuff to me, and like it helps me to get through my life, but it doesn't give me any type of powers and that kind of stuff. But they do say like Ram Dass's guru, like Maharishi, he could fly, he could levitate, and like bring birds back to life and light leaves on fire and do that kind of things. And when he died, he died on purpose, and he didn't die. He just meditated and shed his mortal coil, is what they say. And do I believe that? I mean, that's what they say. And I don't know, that's what they say, but I've never seen it. So I'm with you. I'm right there with you. Like on one level, it's cool to think about. On another, I have no idea if it's true. But a lot of different mystics and like it's talked about in a lot of different esoteric schools, so there's probably something to it. I would imagine. Yeah, for sure. You've never had any sort of a precog dream, anything like that? A lot of deja vus. Like I can get to nothing that I can control at all. Obviously, sometimes I'll be in a deja vu that will like last me like for feeling like moments, like a lot of moments where I can be like, this is gonna, like to myself internally, be like, this is gonna happen, and then like this is like within I've seen this before. This is gonna happen. And it does happen sometimes. Small stuff, nothing that I really remember offhand. And then I'm good at like predicting stuff. That's part of the synchronicity thing. More just like predicting things, but I wouldn't call that precog. That's more just like reading the tea leaves type of deal. You do that same thing too, but nothing like no dreams. Rivers is messaging me. Sorry, I can't really read it, but I know she has a lot of experience with that type of stuff. But I don't have any stories offhand. But I do believe it's a real thing that people do experience. It's just I personally have not experienced it. Sure. I know we're running out of time. Sorry for rambling. No, you're perfect, man. That's what this is about. It's about getting together and rambling. And by the way, one man's garbage is another man's treasure, which means we love your rambles, brother. If you can, when you get off, just drop Rivers comments in, and I'll read them when we come back from the break here. You're the best, bro. I don't know. I like reading the tea leaves. I like that idea, kind of sniffing out what's happening in the zeitgeist by just paying attention. Right? It's paying attention. But is that precognition? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a different skill set entirely. If I do have a dream that where I can tell the future, you guys will be the first to know. That's for sure. I mean, like, I definitely do believe that there is something to meditating and trying to become closer to source, and at least like for a moment trying to like remove yourself from the equation, try to get a sense of the full scope. There probably is something to that. Maybe with a lot of practice, you can tap into these powers and stuff. I think it's possible, but yeah, it hasn't happened to me yet. I'll let you know. Great show, Mike. Awesome stuff. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call. Night Stalker here, Derek in Massachusetts. Good friend of mine, good friend of the show's. Check out his YouTube channel. Links in the description down below. Brilliant guy. He's got a trailer on his YouTube channel. Let's make him the only guy on YouTube with one video and 10 million views. Let's inspire him to make some more content. All right, we're talking about May the 4th. Of course, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. What about the Force? What about precognition? What about all the rest of this? What about Yoda? Who's your favorite Star Wars character? There's so much to talk about. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds and your calls when we return. Be right back.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss this idea of the Force, because, of course, may the 4th be with you. It is Star Wars Day. We're talking about Yoda. We're talking about the idea that he could see the future, but even the mighty Master Yoda had to admit he couldn't tell because the future is always in motion. So it brings about a conversation in my mind to causality, to, well, predetermination. If you could tell the future, does that mean the future is already written, or do you think it's something a little more complicated than that? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. Simple as that. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Joe in Florida. What's up, my friend? I hope you're feeling better from the COVID. You got the C word. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm just waiting for Revenge of the Fifth. I'm tired of all this. May the 4th be with you.
Okay.
Revenge of the Fifth.
We did it. Yeah, we did it last year. We were a day late, so we did Revenge of the 5th. We did it. We may do it tomorrow. Let's see.
Actually, I'm working on a Spartan Mandalorian helmet for a Star Wars contest this weekend at a club. And Derek might like this. I'm thinking of just mashing it up and putting a Cthulhu theme on it. I've actually got the octopus Cthulhu thing made for the chest protector, and instead of having that Mandalorian skull that they have, I was going to put tentacles. And I'm thinking, if I have time, and it's all got to be done by Saturday, I may put pictures in the Discord, but I'm thinking of attaching tentacles to the bottom of the helmet, so it looks like there's a Cthulhu figure underneath the Mandalorian helmet, and I would probably have it glow green. If I have time.
I love it. I love it.
I literally have the helmet here. I just put the plume on it. I can maybe post a picture of that. But anyway, listening to the show, say hi to everybody on Rockfin. Yeah, I mean, predetermination, the Matrix, whatever. I think I mentioned it yesterday. I come home from work, and I usually take the same ride home. And I have pictures. I start taking pictures. I don't really even think about a mattress. A mattress in Florida has always been a joke because in Florida, everybody drives, you know, if it barely runs, they put it on the road. And I always made the joke of somebody having their hand holding a mattress down. Always a joke. Well, now it's not a joke. I drive home, and probably at least 70% of the time, I see a mattress on the back of a vehicle, if not two. And I'm thinking to myself, am I putting that out there? Do I know that? Am I seeing that? I'm thinking that. Okay. My job today, I put in my 2 weeks notice. Today was official.
Congratulations.
And I kept saying to myself, no, thank you. And hopefully it's through greener path. It's a whole other thing. But yeah, the great resignation. So I'm hoping in 2 weeks I'll be done. I'll have a month off and back to work. But, you know, I kept saying to myself, they're not going to see this coming. I have to do it where they're not going to see it coming. I just, you know, and subconsciously maybe I was putting that thought out there, and I was kind of desperate. I was looking for it maybe outside of the field, teaching, doing something else that I have the ability to do. And you want to call it dumb luck, precognition, take a look. I log on Indeed, which I didn't do every night. I just happened to log on Indeed one night late, and there was a position there. And I was like, you know what? Let me throw out the app. So I threw the app out. And when I went to interview, it was like a bait and switch. I guess the guy that was leaving the position decided not to leave. And the owner was basically like, look, we still want to talk to you. There's opening, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you know what? Let me roll the dice. What was I really? Or was I putting it out there? Because I had certain needs that I wanted to be met. And if I would have taken the original job, I would have had to have sacrificed something else. But what were the chances that when I got there, the job that I originally went for was not available anymore? But a gentleman was retiring in a funeral home, and I was able to take that job and still be able to play ice hockey in the middle of the week with a group that I've always played with. So that was it's an almost perfect scenario. And I was hoping for that, just hoping, not looking really, just hoping. You know, you shake the door, you could say it's destiny, you could say it's precognition. I have religious people that say, God, if you can't move the mountain, move me. These things I believe in. But I think a lot of it, we've said it before, we're a reflection of what we put out there, and the universe will mirror that back to us. When Yoda says the future's not clear, it's because I think the emotions for sure are always the variable. You know, if math and algorithms are predictability, the emotional part of it, at least for now, is going to be that variable or that wild card that could change a future outcome if we live in infinite universes. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm kind of just listening to the show, but that's the way I look at, you know, the Force. And again, I kept saying to myself, they're not going to see it coming. And a bunch of people have just quit. You know, and in my personal view, I emailed a month ago to take a promotion. Nobody ever got back to me. And now all of a sudden I put my 2 weeks in, and 5 minutes later I'm getting a phone call. And they're like, well, we didn't expect it. We didn't see this coming. That's what they were telling me. And then they were saying, well, we're sorry that there's been a lack of leadership. And those have been the words that I was exactly chiming to the company that I
the
still
Ola.
work for.
Yeah, the Ola, you know, we suck and we know we suck, but we're not going to do anything about it. But we didn't see this coming, Joe. Yeah, sure you didn't. Sure. You're praying.
Well, no, in this particular case, they didn't. They figured I've been old reliable. I've been the cheapest fix. You know, in my particular case, they were going to interview people, I'm sure. And if they could, housing is ridiculous. People couldn't come down here. They couldn't pay them enough. So they were going to keep me as the last resort. You know, and they honestly didn't think I was going to quit, you know, because I'm always quitting. Every week I want to quit, or somebody pisses me off or whatever. I'm always going to quit, but I never quit. This time I'd just be really, really quiet. And I said, here you go. Now you're not even going to have a funeral. Usually you have 2 funeral directors. Now they won't even have one. I'm the only one. I've been by myself for over a month. So they don't see it coming in my particular case. And that's the way I wanted it. That's exactly the way I wanted it. So that's the prediction I put out there. That's the future that I got. And hopefully it's leading to a better future.
Hey,
so
it's
we have
gotta be.
control over those things. In the movie, I would think that maybe Luke bent the future a little bit by disobeying Yoda. You know, maybe he bent the future. And throughout the movie, Yoda's always fooled because I guess, you know, the Dark Lord, whatever Darth Sidious, his darkness is so prevalent, it was just like a blanket. Nobody could see the deceptions or anything coming.
Yeah. Again, fascinating. Like, how does all this come together? And it is like you're saying. Is this what we ask for? Is what we get from the universe? This would be back to what the Robert says often on the Rockfin over there. He says that you demand from the universe and you get it. You just got to sort of have like the positive mindset and say, this is what I want, this is what I get, and that's what you get. So hopefully, I crossing my fingers for your prayers and all the good stuff, my man. I hope everything turns and everything's as you expect it to be, better and better and better.
So I thank you, and I will leave you with this then. Rogue One, agreed. Maybe because all of us that like Rogue One are fatalists with high ideals, because everybody dies in that movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. And but the character that I seem to really think I like the most is Wedge Antilles, because he's one of the pilots that survived all the movies, and I always love spaceships, so that's basically it. I'll leave you with that. And have a good night, and welcome, Jennifer, and thank you for all the calls, and everybody have a good rest of their week.
You're the best, Joe. Appreciate the phone call. Good luck in your future endeavors, as the email goes. Have a great one, bro. Joe in Florida. Joe in Florida, good friend of mine, good friend of the show's. He's been here for a long time. Kelly, happy birthday to Kelly out there as well. Kelly has been part of the show for a long time. Joe and Kelly together, basically holding this show up before a lot of people were here. So a shout out to those old timers, the OG Troubled Minds out there that call in from time to time and just prop this show up. And it started really the tradition of kind of a conglomerate group of folks that just kind of come together and just spit fire every night. So I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea. Let's go to let's do the thing. We're still talking about May the 4th be with you, the Force and precognition. What's the idea here? Learning about Yoda and his idea that the future is always in motion. Let's play this clip again real quick. I'll play it so both James and Jennifer can hear it on Discord. And it goes like this: Yoda is training Luke. Luke's like, well, what about my friends? I have this premonition about my friends. Are they going to die? He asks Yoda. Well, this is how this went down.
I saw a city in the clouds.
Friends you have there.
They were in pain.
It is the future you see.
Future? Will they die?
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
I've got to go to them.
Decide you must how to serve them best. If you leave now, help them you could, but you will destroy all for which they have fought and suffered.
And the key term there is Yoda says, always in motion, the future is. All right. And that's the beautiful part about this. Talking about precognition tonight, the Force, Star Wars, may the Force be with you. What are your thoughts here? 702-957-1037. Let's go to Jennifer in Missouri. Welcome to Troubled Minds, my friend. How are you tonight?
Hey, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening. Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Go right ahead. I'm sure you've seen some Star Wars in your time, eh?
Yes, I have. Anyway, so my favorite characters. Okay, I'll start with, I mentioned Mace Windu. And I'm going to talk about my favorite characters, and then I'm going to talk about the Force. But the precognition thing, do I have an echo? Or is it just me?
You do. Sorry about that. Killed it. Go right ahead.
Sorry. Anyway, so...
My bad.
So the precognition thing in our world, is a totally different thing. But as far as the Star Wars thing, anyway, I'm going to start with that. So, Mace Windu, it's Samuel Jackson, and he just totally killed it with his portrayal of the character. Really cool thing that I like the most about him that's, really neat is that Windu it's not only that he's a Jedi master, but he saw the strength of the dark side. He saw it could be utilized, in a way that could be channeled if you didn't succumb to it. It could help a Jedi to become a more well-rounded warrior. And we've seen this before in many different fighting styles and stuff, with Miyamoto Musashi talked a lot about that. But he was a Japanese philosopher and a warrior. Anyway, though, so he created his own fighting style, and I don't know. It's just I just thought it was really awesome. And then Revan. Now Revan is he's not really so much in the movies at all, though he's a part of a video games and a book series, and it's the Knights of the Old Republic. But so his story relates a lot to Vader Anakin, because he's the brother of Cade Skywalker, and so he's one of Anakin's ancestors. Anyway, in his story, so he begins as a Jedi Knight, and then he joins the Sith. But then he has this redemption arc. It's kind of cool. He's a little OP, character. But if anyone's into that kind of stuff, if they're into the Star Wars series, you should check it out and look at his story. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but the ending of it and his whole story is really amazing. And then my number one favorite, though, is it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the reason is that I feel that way kind of goes from the beginning to the end of his story, and he starts off as a young Padawan. He's not of any kind of exceptional talent per se, and not incredibly connected to the Force. He's hot-headed, and he was considered by Qui-Gon that he wasn't trainable and wasn't a desirable apprentice. So really, he's like an underdog. And I'm a huge fan of those kinds of story arcs. But anyway, so he's an underdog in his youth. But as the story progresses, he's struggling and he has to find a discipline within himself to try and master what many characters had a natural talent for. And he goes from being like this hot-headed kid, this young Padawan, to an honorable, albeit like fallible Jedi Knight of the Order. But he goes from that to losing everything that he had studied and worked towards. And after the Order 66, with when Palpatine wanted all the Jedi to be killed. But we see his arc. We see this arc of like a broken man, still trying to do his duty, even in exile. And he, by doing that, he makes hope possible. So we really see Obi-Wan, who wasn't anyone special in the Order, become the epitome of what you would hope to see of a Jedi. And I think it's just amazing, like his whole character arc and story and everything. Now, the Force, what I think is really amazing about it, the one thing that really stands out, now I know a lot of people relate this to the Tao. I've heard that mentioned and everything, but one thing I really want to bring it to is the thing that's talked about with the midi-chlorian, which are these, what they are, according to George Lucas, is kind of like similar to the mitochondria, is what he kind of maybe supposedly based it off of, even though it's not really talked about in the earlier series, but it becomes talked about a great deal after like the mid-2000s or something like that. But he says it was in his mind the whole time. But these midi-chlorians are like these microscopic life forms that are in the blood of the Force sensitive, like the Jedis and everything. I think it's extremely important to mention that, because when you think about this, okay, so the midi-chlorians form like a symbiotic relationship with their host. They're these microscopic life forms. They're in the blood, and the mitochondria itself of all living organisms, they also too, there's been some science that backs up that they may have their own type of like they're an independent life form within us in a way. And so are the midi-chlorians in all living organisms. And what the big deal about that is, like with the case of Anakin, he has more of those midi-chlorians than even Yoda. Like, he's the one. Like, he's got all of them. And the way that this works is those midi-chlorians communicate. They come from the center of the galaxy where all life comes from. And they've been dispersed, like seeded into all life forms in their realm. And they communicate the will of the Force in all beings. And in some beings, there's more than others. And even some animals are mentioned that they have more in their blood than humans. But I thought that was a really important point. I mean, it comes around to the more of those midi-chlorian that was in the blood, the more the opportunity for immortality after death. Yoda himself went to, like, in the lore and everything, which is where I'm really into the lore. So he goes to the planet that the midi-chlorian originate from, where these microscopic organisms originated. And he discovers this link. And then when he comes back with that information, like, he's the one who has the information about that. Or he, brings back that information. But what's really interesting is that he was the only one from what I can see, Yoda is, that was able to become one with the Force, but retain his own consciousness and have his own personality still. Because apparently, and this is interesting, because in Taoism, in mysticism, Buddhism, that kind of stuff, when you become one, you almost become selfless. You become a nothing. Not a nothing, but like, when you join with that, you're just kind of, the personality kind of slips away. But Yoda doesn't. Like, he has all of that still retained within him. And that's why he's like this. That's what's so special about him, in my opinion. But anyway, Yeah, it's true that I also I wasn't born during the Star Wars era, but it's something that I've stumbled across, and like in the search that we all have to better understand, what's going on, or what we are, or what we could become. And I feel like in this whole story, in this mythos, it gives us a lot of good information that's worth anybody looking into. I think it's very helpful. As far as my favorite movies go, I mean, I like the prequel series. A lot of people hated it, and I totally understand that. Out of the originals, my favorite was The Return of the Jedi because of the Ewoks. Because, I mean, like the Shih Tzu dog, it's so cute. Like, anyway, so that was like my favorite. But, like the Palpatine and Rey Skywalker, that whole thing, I mean, can totally kiss my butt. Because what was that? Oh my god.
And the granddaughter. Don't get me started. There's a whole lot to really appreciate about Star Wars, and there's a whole lot that's just that just kind of makes you want to rage. You're like, were they even watching their own movies? Like this is just terrible. So we're running out of time. But real quick, what do you know about the Wills? Have you heard about this? So the WHILLS, the quote from George Lucas says, the midichlorians are the ones that communicate with the Wills. The Wills, in a general sense, they are the Force. Have you heard of this?
Okay. Well, I know about the ethereal beings that are being, they're like, what were they? Like anger, sadness, serenity, joy. Like, anyway, these mass, all-pervasive forces that are in all life forms, basically. And particularly in the human organisms, basically, what we would consider human organisms. It reminds me a lot of the Greek gods, and the gods in every culture, honestly, where we've taken that it's not just like the feelings, like those types of feelings are not just a feeling, but they're literally a force of being in itself, like a god. And I feel like there's some kind of connection going on there. But as far as like from the center of the galaxy that the force was put out from, I mean, to send, I don't know, it's such a, no, I don't. I'm not really sure. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure how to equate it to what the big scam, because this is a huge thing. But when you talk about with the force itself, you have those described. Yoda encounters them, and they're these ethereal beings, and there were like 5 of them or something. And like I said, it was like sadness, anger, joy, serenity, and something else like jealousy or something like that. I don't remember, but anyway, they're described as being literal beings in themselves, like a force of reckoning. And it's unusual to think, but as far as the threads of fate, and like I said, with the precognition thing, the way that would tie in is a whole nother subject, I feel like the way that we may consider it, or the way that we may look at it. But they were communicating because they had that high concentration of the midi-chlorians, because they had such a large amount, some more than others, in their bloodstream, in their actual blood. That was the connection that they had, that they could interpret the will, of the Force. It's just, it's really amazing.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
we're out of time. You're welcome. You're welcome to hang till after the break. Stay right there. Everybody, Jennifer has a YouTube channel. Check it out. Links in the description down below. Give her some love. Follow the YouTube channel. As it ends, it's like this. If you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds. And of course, be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. right, simple as that. We are now off the fringe, and let me make sure it's appropriate as possible. Okay, cool. All right, good. Easy. So we got some more coming, of course. I hate to cut you off there, Jennifer, to get off the radio, but if you're still there, I don't know if you dipped out or you're still there. Go right ahead. You were on the Wills and this idea how large Star Wars is, and I think that's the fascinating part about it, and which resonates. It's not just the hero's journey. We talk about Joseph Campbell and that bit on this show quite a lot, but also that it's sort of in the larger term of, like I said, precognition is an entire other thing in this. And what does all this mean? How does it fit? Again, the midichlorians, the Wills. And if you guys don't know regarding the Wills, the WHILLS, so if George Lucas didn't sell to Disney for the $4 billion, supposedly he was going to continue the story of the midichlorians, and that the next trilogy after all of this would have been about the Wills, the WHILLS. And that's if the midichlorians are the ones that communicate with the Wills in a general sense, they are the Force. And so shit was about to get super weird if Lucas stayed at the helm, and I kind of wonder if it would have been better. It sounds like it might have been better. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, he didn't. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
So I guess we won't know.
Yeah.
I wish he had. But, as far as like precognition itself and bringing it back to our, how does this apply? Because I believe that all stories, these are our modern accounts. This is our modern mythos. We take a lot from the past, but this is our mythos. Like, people in the future may be like, I don't know what they were into, but they were really into this stuff. And you can imagine how they might see us and see that we were taking the same ancient truths and we were applying them to our modern world that was on the edge of some kind of futurism, but failing miserably in a way, as is seen in all the different past civilizations. So it's not as a rule that we should fail, but there always seems to be this culmination and then this little fall, and then a culmination and a little fall, and we're all hoping to avoid that, because we've seen it in the past. It appears to be an evolution. It's not always the case, but maybe we can glide through this if we're all cautious and learn from the past. But, so when I'm thinking about precognition in the modern terms and in the ancient terms of our own world, it's as if, so there's nothing existing except for the present moment. There is no time, but there is something happening, and that's something to do with like the dark matter and stuff like that. There's an effect occurring where we can see the signs of time, but it's really weird too about the brain, because you're always just in the present moment. And people are talking about, how the future is always, Yoda was talking about how the future is always changing based off of the current moment. But you're not supposed to really know the future but the future is always changing, because as you're living in the present moment, see, the future can't happen unless you're in the present moment. And since life is only existing in this moment, it's important to remain very present, I think, is the message of the Force. That it's important to be present in every moment. And if the more present you are, the more that you're there, the more that you're active presently, not in the past and not in the future, the stronger your influence could be over future events. And perhaps but somehow through that, you know what I mean? Like that balance of being currently aware. It's always been mentioned in every type of martial art, every type of discipline, in sniper training, in the military, like everything is about like, you have to be in the moment to actually be effective. And if you're anywhere in the past or in the future, you're not effectual for what needs to happen right now, which is going to affect everything. And it could happen at any time. Your calling is right now, not tomorrow or yesterday. And everyone's waiting for their moment. But, anyway, but precognition and the ability to tell the future, through the use of divining tools and things like that, or through dreams, or through the watching of patterns. I do believe there's something to it. I do believe in fate and a predestiny type of situation, like a situation of. But a lot of people do not agree with that. But I kind of do. And that's just my own personal thing. That I do believe there's some kind of something knows what we're going to do, even though we do not. And maybe they're kind of like, but I think that it could change at any moment. But there's always a plan for what will happen should you do so. So they're never surprised. I think there's somewhere out there, some beings that are not surprised by what we do. Like, we're surprised or confused because we're not in on it. But somehow precognition is tapping into it. It's tapping into, if I make this choice, it's going to do this. And trying to see into the future of what my actions may cause as a ripple effect. I think that's tied into precognition, but also, too, that's not quite it, is it? Like, precognition is, a lot of times people talk about just getting a vision of something that may happen.
And then it happens.
So there's a...
And then it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the weird part. So is it, again, we talk about the Akashic Record, or we talk about time as a flat circle. Are we sort of maybe dipping into a time space that we're not allowed to be in just yet? And we sort of unlocked it just momentarily enough to see, but then it became locked again, meaning that the locks are not always airtight. We can kind of get a peek now and then. But who knows? I don't know what the hell's going on. But yeah.
Well, they talk about... But once again, there's like these gatekeeper beings. It seems to me that there is something like that going on. When people take up a discipline, like people who are interested in the esoteric arts, magic, and stuff like that, or they're dabbling in spiritualism or anything like that, when they get very serious about it and they commit themselves, they say that there's like a commitment to the watchers, that you're pretty much the watchers, the four corners, which are like these beings in our own realm that are residing over the four corners of existence, like of the directions. And there will be others who can come in and talk a great deal about that because it delves a lot into witchcraft and stuff like that. But it's I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so like you have the four corners, and you have these watchers kind of overlooking things. But it seems like what was I trying to say? Could you tell what I was trying to say?
You're saying a lot of things. So there's entities. So again, interesting that you're bringing up sort of entities as watchers, as maybe gatekeepers, in sort of a universal boundary type of situation, like even kind of controlling, like I said, the gates of time, right? There's some kind of lock and key situation going on there.
It's counted in Taoism as demons, in Christianity as like lions at the gate, like. In mysticism, and in many other religions too, as all kinds of different types of beings. You have the ethereal beings of the Seelie and the Unseelie court of the Fae folk and all that stuff, the little people that are residing in these invisible beings that are moving all events. But there's more than that. There's like these bouncers, it seems like, that are kind of keeping track. And we don't know that they're there, but people talk about this a lot, that when they're doing these things, and I've experienced something kind of similar to this, where I felt like when I was doing a lot of work on this, well, I'm not talking about my personal experiences, but it seems like when you're trying to reach something very deep in your own subconscious, something meets you there and tries to scare you away. It seems that way to me, that it seems at first that they're just trying to terrorize you and just to terrorize you. But in fact, I believe actually that they are gatekeepers, and what they're doing is testing you. And if you can't hold up to it, you're not allowed past. Kind of like in a lot of pop culture talks about this, like the Neverending Story, for a lot of people who are like, into that stuff. They have the Sphinx they have those great sphinx that like zap that kid who's running through with the horse, that zap him, you know, because if he was true or not. So I think that there's a lot of that going on. Like, you cannot pass and see into the future or have these types of abilities unless you've been tested and tried. But a lot of people don't report that kind of stuff when they have precognition. They seem to just be like naturals at it. It may be that they have some kind of especially unique ability. It could be that everybody has something like, well, you've experienced deja vu, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they call that like you've had a small seizure and didn't know it. But I kind of think that, I've had deja vu several times, and everybody's had it several times. They try to say it's just a little seizure or something, which is just kind of weird. But it seems to me that it's like you're in line with what's, you know, like what you're fixing to do right now when you have deja vu. You just feel, it's an eerie feeling. Anybody who's ever had that, it's just, you're like, when you've been, how can you feel that way? And it has to be some form of, I think that's a form of recognition. And the Force itself, you can't help but notice that it has some connection to the Tao, right? Like, for those not familiar with that, which I'm sure everybody is, but it's the same premise. It's the life force pervading all living things. It's just they call it the way. And it's just like, you can relax, basically, because it's already just going to happen like it's going to happen. Because you're naturally going to do what you're supposed to do. And even easier, if you just relax into it. So it's like the story equated as like the leaf in like a stream of water. You know, like the leaf is like struggling against the current. In the story, like the leaf has a persona, just an animism account. And the leaf is trying to fight against the flood of water. And eventually it just lets go. And it's carried exactly like it's supposed to be carried. It's much like that. And I think in our day-to-day life, we're so concerned about the past or the future. But if we would just relax, we may have a very clear vision of it being okay no matter where we go. But as far as a vision into the future, okay, let's go back to this. If we get off of the,
we got calls behind you, Jennifer. We gotta move on to the next thing. Yeah, so you're this is amazing, fascinating. You're welcome to stay right there if you got some time for us tonight. You want to hang out a little bit?
No, I think I'll pop off and just kind of listen.
Okay.
And I've been like carrying. You guys have a good night. And I'm going to listen.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the amazing takes. As always,
Thank you.
Jennifer here, I always teasing her that she's the one who always calls in and takes the off the rails train over the cliff and twisting in the best way as everybody puts their hands up on a roller coaster. Please give her a follow. Links in the description down below. Jennifer has a YouTube channel. Thanks for all the amazing takes and knowing so much about Star Wars. Holy shit. 702-957-1037. We're still doing this, talking about Star Wars, talking about precognition, talking about Yoda, talking about the Force, and we got into the wills somehow, the WHILLS. Oh my goodness gracious. Thank you for that, Jennifer. James, anything on that real quick before we go to Kelly? Quick take, and Kelly's next.
Yeah, I was, again, there's so much there to cover or try to cover, but there is, in different fictional universes, there are other beings that are said to personify different emotions. So that's not necessarily, that makes you wonder if there's some kind of basis in that to reality, because I'm just thinking of, how many times have we heard in fiction, this character is the aspect of, pain or death or eternity or even emotions, rage, or just think of all the video game or comic book or whatever. There's all kinds of references to beings that are either just made of that energy or they harness it. So it's all over the place, which is really makes you wonder what if anything there is in reality that can be based on.
Which, again, is back to the nature of reality and all the rest of this. 702-957-1037. Let's go to Kelly in Colorado. Thanks for being patient. Kelly is the birthday boy. Happy birthday, Kelly. What's up, my man? How are you tonight?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. What's happening, my man?
Not too much. Just chilling for the birthday. Not too much, man. Just it's actually a day off, so got to relax.
Nice. Hey, man, sometimes you just need a little bit of relaxation. And even better if it's on your birthday. It's a double plus good, my friend.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
What's your thought on the Force? We've talked about the Force before. What about Yoda, the Force, Precognition? I'm sure you got an idea here on what's going on. And also your favorite Star Wars characters and all the rest of that. What's on your mind, my man?
Okay, let's check it out. My first let's go with characters, because I kind of understand what Jennifer and the Night Stalker was talking about. Oh, Daryl, that they weren't born in there, but all I heard from their mouth was blasphemy about they're not in. They don't like Night Stalker. I was one that was growing up in the beginning of that, so some people don't really kind of got to understand that. When that movie came out, man, that was like, we never had, like, there was no, really no, sci-fi that was kind of like that, it was, what's the name that brought this all out, his directing, you know what I mean? It was like, it's the first time, like, you had like a space war type thing, but yeah, it wasn't. He tried to do it with the best abilities that he had with all the, he didn't have a lot of money to actually starting this whole thing out. But, the special effects was one of the outrageous ones back then, like nowadays it's all computers. Some of the remakes that they did with Star Wars, the first three that they came out in the 70s, they did a pretty good job too. They kind of like remade some of the stuff and made it, other things that he wanted to touch upon. But for us that were in the 70s when it first came out, man, that was incredible because, the other thing you already had to start was Star Trek, and it was all right, but it wasn't like Star Wars took your adventures even out further into another, in a galaxy far, far away, So, and then it, brought in some of the stuff. But again, with the real quick, my special before I get into it with the Force, I would say my three favorite. I don't know. I have a lot of favorites, but like Yoda's got to be the top one. I know that he seemed to be cranky at the time when the movies first came out, but he was 900 years old, man. He's seen. You got to give it to the old.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know what? I got to tell you what. Like one of my favorite people in the whole world ever, right? Because time space becomes a flat circle, and we can still remember the people that have passed on, the people we loved. Was my grandfather? One of my grandfathers was incredible. The other grandfather, incredible as well. Different, very, very different, stark people, but like just incredibly larger than life. Like they've been there, they've done that, and if they're grumpy. There's a reason why they're grumpy. You know what I mean? Like, as whippersnappers, you got to back off and be like, okay, all right, get off my lawn. Got it. Copy that. Not going to complain or argue.
You got to get off his grass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. 100%. And that's kind of Yoda, right? Like, you're right. And when 900 years old you reach, let's see if you look as good, right? Something like that, he said. That's totally right.
Also, and it was something weird about his species too, because his species had, just like Jennifer was talking about the midichlorians, but his species especially had the ability to actually even have a lot of those, the whole species, even like the one with what they call Baby Yoda now, but I can't remember his full name, but
Grogu.
Grogu, yeah, Grogu. So Grogu, him too as well. Those. It's just within that runs in those type of species that it has a higher account of that within their blood. But another one would be Qui-Gon. When the new ones came out was Qui-Gon Jinn. And obviously, I don't know so much about Anakin, but when he became Darth Vader, that's when everybody kind of was drawn to that. Not only because as his abilities too. If you know the books. But the struggle within himself, and we kind of find out in the prequel the reason why, he became like such, by the Emperor, twisting his mind and telling him that he killed his own wife, and And I believe that Darth Vader at the time didn't believe that he killed his wife. He still was. That was the struggle within him. And then he found out that he had kids. Actually one. Then he found out. Through Luke, he found out about Laura. But yeah, it was. It's an incredible.
Leia. Hey, speaking of blasphemy, it's Leia. You said Laura. Damn it, Kelly. I don't even know you anymore. You have a birthday and you think you can just make shit up? What the fuck, man?
My bad. Yeah. Fucking Leia. But yeah, Leia. So it was. I talk about blasphemy. Hell yeah. But yeah, I mean, so. But those ones were actually some of my favorite ones. But if you go to the dark side one, it would. I don't know, man. There's a few of them, even though some people thought he was an older guy too, but he was actually a very powerful Jedi at one time. And under Yoda, one of his Padawans was what was his name? He was not Count Dooku, but the other one.
Which one? Sidious? What do you look like?
Yeah, I believe Sidious, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the Emperor. That's the Emperor. That was his name before he became the Emperor. That's Sidious.
I think it was Anakin. He cut his head off, and I think in the second movie.
That's Dooku. That's Dooku. Yep.
Who's the robot guy with the 4 arms and shit?
That was what's the guy's name? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. That is shit, General Grievous. Yeah. Yeah.
That was See, some of those characters, it's pretty exciting because you never seen anybody with 4 arms and kind of taught in the ways. He was more a robot than more than anything, But he had that. His heart was covered, with that, was being protected. But it was Grievous was actually a pretty trippy one too, man. But I don't know, man. Like that whole story is kind of like take you into it brings your imagination out to thinking about other parts of the galaxy, other planets. That's why it was so exciting to because a lot of people was kind of into that. That was after the 40s, 50s, 60s, the whole UFOs and everything like that. So it was pretty exciting times back then, but. With the Force, kind of like what Jennifer was saying too, is it is with like Buddhism, yes, Taoism, but all of them came from Hindu, and a lot of those teachings are just exactly like that. Some of these directors and authors, I'm pretty sure they read some of these books. They a lot of these ancient books, it almost talks about the exact same thing as the Force. You have even in Christianity, which was actually taken out of the Bible, which is the Gospel of Thomas, talks about the human capabilities. It sounds like almost like superpowers, but it's just like the old. It's kind of like the old adage where like with the Native Americans. My type family was we were all one with nature. Everybody on the time. For all this explosion of technologies, or even, when people wanted to go into machinery and all that stuff, what the United States did, but before that, everybody was, we're living in one with nature, And it's not they were primitive. I believe it's reversed. That they were the most, because they can understand, they could hear, they could feel, like with the stories of the Native Americans of the Plains Indians, they were using, for tracking and hunting and stuff. They were, when they cut their hair off and when they went into the army, they kind of like lost their ability to do that, so, but yeah, man. So it's weird. It's kind of, and the reason why I say some of that too, because like within Buddhism, the whole reason, to become, like the enlightened body or with enlightened, you have to give up all your possessions, all your worldly possessions that you even love, you're supposed to give up everything. That's what the whole thing with the Force, the Jedi way. But it's kind of that's the hardest part, I believe, for somebody to do is to get rid to shed yourself from all that. It's kind of like it's kind of like it reminds me of the story of in the Bhagavad Gita, right? It's a ancient Hindu Sanskrit, and it's part of the Mahabharata, but it's a branch off when because in the Mahabharata it was two families fighting, two families. I don't want to say the names because they're you just look it up if people want to do it because
unpronounceable.
Yeah, and those. But anyway, there was a prince on one side, and his name was Ajora, and he was being backed by the god Krishna. And at the time, on the battlefield, Krishna was looking, and it was family against family is what it was. And Krishna was kind of like, no, why are we doing this? We should be able to talk this over. I don't want to go and kill my family or be killed by one of my cousins or my brothers, someone that's on the other side that's, my family. And at the time, Krishna was telling them that it was, at the time was, you can't like see in the future, just like what Yoda was saying, the future's not written. I mean, it's there, but it's in many directions. It just has, and that's why I believe what Yoda was saying that it's, it's constantly moving. That means you could see it. You might be able to see the future, but you can also be altered. It's not a solid thing. It's flow like water. It can be changed in different directions. So that's why I go to this, in the Bhagavad Gita. Excuse me. That Krishna is telling Ajora that it's your moment at the time. You can't stray from this. This is your duty as your, as the king. That you should be, but Ajora was questioning, it's a very interesting read, man. But in the long run, it's just back and forth, of Krishna trying to, more or less, I don't know if it's coaxing but tell him like how it's his duty, and how it flows through, within the body and stuff, and down to more or less this. And what's interesting too. Is that when Oppenheimer, right, the guy who created the atom bomb, he actually read the Bhagavad Gita, and that's where he takes a part of that out of it, where he says, "I now become the destroyer of worlds," and he thought it almost like the same way that what he was doing. He knows that it was a very destructive, but at the same time, it was his job to step in, no matter what the crisis was. That he had to help. It wasn't helping. Well, it was helping because they think that it was going to end the war by, showing the mass destruction, to the Japanese that, it's got to end. And, at first they were defiant after the first one. And then after we dropped the second one, that's when they were like, okay, because they didn't really know how much we had. But yeah, Oppenheimer believed that, yes, it was destructive. And yes, he had to, but it had to be created, So, and that's where he took the whole saying out that he became the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, and maybe a show in the future for so I am become the destroyer of worlds, and maybe Starfish Prime, and they say that in some of that mythology that's how when they started knocking UFOs out of the sky, sort of interdimensionally. So I am become the destroyer of worlds means not this world, but multiple worlds, and oh shit, it turns upside down. Kelly, I got to give it to you. Somehow, some way, you turned this around, and you brought everything right back to Star Wars because you were talking about attachments, you were talking about premonitions, you were talking about this whole idea that maybe the Force is not the Force at all, but it's some other thing from some other time in our own history. Check this out. I got this for you real quick. We're going to go to Robert. He's been waiting for a long time on the phone. You're welcome to stay. You going to hang out with us for a bit, Kelly?
Yeah. But just real quick before you start, because I just want to finish with this. What was interesting, and this is how like some people, it's the opposite, like the Mandalorian, right? For example, the Mandalorians, they have a code, and one of the codes, the codes are strength, honor, loyalty, and death. And the one that he talks about, because when he finally met, the Anakin or Luke Skywalker, right, in the Mandalorian, or the other one, I can't remember what it was, but he talks about that, they kind of run over and saying that you have to give, the Jedi give up all possessions, but in the Mandalorian, they're saying that kind of goes against their creed, which is one of them was loyalty, and that's for without one's clan, one has no purpose. So, and that's where, you hear about like communities and stuff, like how to raise it. Like it takes a whole community to raise a child and stuff. So it's weird, man. So I don't know, man. You can take it in two different ways. So that's why I just want to add that too. But yeah, I'll stick around.
Okay, great stuff. I appreciate it, Kelly. Happy birthday again to you. Thanks for spending some of your birthday time with us. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to play this real quick, and just to bring this back around, and we'll go to Robert. It's interesting. I had this clip, the last clip I haven't played yet, and Kelly touched on all of it. Listen to this. This is Yoda talking to Anakin and regarding premonitions and attachments, just like Kelly was describing.
Premonitions? Premonitions? These visions you have.
They're of pain, suffering, death.
Yourself you speak of, or someone you know?
Someone.
Close to you?
Yes.
Careful you must be when sensing the future, Anakin. The fear of loss is a path to the dark side.
I won't let these visions come true, Master Yoda.
Death is a natural part of life. Rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not. Attachment leads to jealousy. A shadow of greed, that is.
What must I do, Master Yoda?
Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
And there you go. That's Kelly bringing it all the way back around to all the stuff you're saying. Brilliant stuff as always. Let's go. Thanks for being patient with us. Let's go to Robert in Pennsylvania. Welcome to Troubled Minds. The Robert, go right ahead. What's on your mind as the phone? There it goes. There it goes. Now it works. What's up, my man? How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, doing okay. Just doing weird shit. I'm going to go step away for about 30 seconds and grab the dog and bring her in here with me. You okay to riff for 30 seconds without me?
Sure.
Go right ahead. Thank you. Be right back. I got you on speakers. I'm listening.
Okay. You can tune in to the past, to the future, to the you're already tuned into the present. It's because all time is a frequency. The future has a frequency, the past is a frequency, the present that you're living in is a frequency. It's kind of like tuning a radio. All right, for all you youngsters out there, a radio is a kind of like, it was a little box, maybe about 5.5 inches tall, rectangular, and it had maybe 3 knobs on it and some kind of needle that you turned the knobs and it tuned into a frequency, and maybe you'd get a jazz, radio show, or you'd get a oldies but goodies show, that type of. That was a radio. Okay, so and sometimes they were not quite so big. Sometimes you could hold them in your hand because they were the size of a cell phone. Okay, so each time you were tuning that, you were tuning into a program the same way you would tune into seeing the future. Because all you have to do is latch on to that frequency, all right, to see the future. All right. The problem is, once you see the future, okay, you don't like what you see, you're probably going to try to alternate it. You're going to try to change it, and that's a hard thing to do, because really the only way you can change your future, well, your present anyway, is you can change your present by changing your past, and that can be done. And I've said this on the show before. But if you see the future, you're bound to do something that will thwart the way it was supposed to turn out. because it's going to be, maybe you see the future and you say, oh, I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to win a big Powerball jackpot, and I'm going to win the lottery. All right, and of course you don't want to change that, but because you saw it, because you tuned into that frequency and saw what was down the road, all right, you're going to get all messed up and you're going to change it.
I'm here with you. Excuse me.
You're back, Mike.
I've been here. I've been listening. I find it absolutely incredible that you feel you got to explain the radio to the youngsters because they probably don't even know what a radio is anymore. That's a comedy. But no, you're right. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's no different. Everything, the whole universe, the whole of what this reality is a frequency. All right, we can't, like a soul, a spirit is a vibration. It's vibrating higher. It's a frequency, a higher frequency than in the physical realm. So I'm only saying that to make a comparison. To show what I'm talking about, that all things are a frequency, and that includes time.
Yeah, I got you. It's an allegory. I totally got you. I'm with you 100%. I just thought it was pretty funny. It was like us old guys are now like, well, let me tell you, back in the day, you whippersnappers, how things used to be. But yeah, okay. So if you're
wait a minute, Mike. You're just a young whippersnapper yourself.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Hey, the great Michael Savage said, never let an old person live in your body, Robert.
Like you're Obi-Wan Kenobi. you're a young man yourself. Anyway, I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody's sitting down to do a tarot reading.
Sure.
All right, and that person is good at doing that. All right, all they're doing, it's not the pictures on the cards, or the way they're laid out, or anything like that, that gives them a pretty good idea of a prediction of the future. It's because what those cards do is they help that person concentrate in a way that allows them to get in touch with that frequency. That is the future. All right? And that communicates to them, an idea of what to say.
Yeah, as always, right? Everything's frequency. Everything's frequency. Tune into that frequency, whatever that happens to be. I'm with you. Sorry. What are you going to say?
Yeah, that's what. Anytime you have I'm trying to think of the word for something. I'm not a procrastinator, but somebody that claims to be able to tell the future, whether it's by reading your palm or reading tarot cards or reading tea leaves or whatever. What they're doing, like I said, is they're getting in touch with that frequency. It has nothing to do with the tea leaves floating in the saucer, in the cup. It has nothing to do with the cards. It has nothing to do with the Ouija board. It has nothing to do with any of those things. All those things are instruments that help the person, the diviner, to link into a frequency because it makes them concentrate. It makes that person concentrate, and that concentration, allows that to get that connected to that frequency, just like tuning a radio. And I've explained to your younger viewers what a radio is. But it's like tuning a radio. Now, what I'm seeing in the future, wouldn't this be fascinating? If in the future you can turn your TV on, all right, and pick up the remote, and your TV, has a frequency that allows you to see both all three, both the past, the present, and the future. To some degree, we can do that now because we can see old newsreel footages of World War II, the 50s, that history that's come and gone, all right? But we can't see the future. Excuse me. But what if we could? What if we're in 20 years, 10, 20 years, we figure out what that frequency is, and you can just turn your TV on and see what's coming up.
I love it, man. Hey, I want to be able to tune in the future. Let me know when this becomes a feature on my Roku box, because I'll definitely be tuning in the future. I want to know what's up. By the way, I think we have a good let's say a feel of the pulse of what the future may be. Anyway, we talk about it almost every night here, so I don't think I'll be surprised. And when I can tune into the future, I think I'll have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like. It seems as long as you pay attention, maybe we already know. You're the best, bro. What else you got regarding the Force and precognition? Obi-Wan Kenobi, or let's say Yoda, and the Force is always, the future is always in motion, even for like the Jedi Masters.
You are the Force. I am the Force. Every person on the planet, every life form in the universe is the Force. Right? You don't have to call on the Force to come to you. You already are the Force. That's one thing that I disagreed with when it came to Star Wars. It seemed like you had to call on the Force. All right? When the Force is within you to begin with.
I see. Okay.
You can do anything. You can do anything because you are the power, and like you were mentioning earlier in the show, of something I mentioned some time ago. All right, you can command the universe. All right, and all you're doing when you command the universe is you're commanding yourself to bring about something that you absolutely want, or absolutely. It's just the way it is. We're the creators, and if we're the creators, we're also the Force, because it takes the Force to create.
And
that's my opinion.
Yeah, I dig it too.
And
that locks in with what? Go ahead.
Right, that's my opinion. You created your life. I've created mine. Sherry's created hers. Kelly's created his. We all create our own lives, and we can't do that unless we also were in command of the Force.
Okay, I see.
That's the way I think.
And I understand, and I'm with you very, very much. I think that Rohan accuses me of not believing in magic, but I do my own magic. Have a good night, Sherry. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Sure, you do.
Yes, maybe
sure
I do.
You.
Maybe I do.
10 years ago, if you look 10 years ago, all right, and be able to see the future, and seeing that you were going to be on some screen, all right, with some kind of a background and a whole show of your own, all right, you would have thought it was magic.
Or bullshit. Or total bullshit. But yes, maybe magic.
And to some degree it is. All right, because you took all the Force, you are the Force, you took all the Force that's within you, and you made it happen.
I guess so. I can't argue with you there.
Creator, no outside Obi-Wan Kenobi, no calling, some kind of forceful ray from the hollow depths of the universe. It was all within you to begin with. You're the Force.
You just had to make it happen.
Everybody is the Force. Yeah, you didn't know what was going to go on 10 years ago, right? Because you couldn't. But if you would have been able to tune that radio and seen further, seen 10 years into the future, you would have been astonished, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't have believed it. If you told me 10 years ago I would have had a talk show, even been on the radio, I'd be like, you're a liar. You're no fucking chance. Well, here we are. Life takes funny turns, man. I'll tell you that.
Yes, it does, and I'm taking a turn right now. I was late getting tuning into the show because I fell asleep. The wife was watching reruns of off the DVR, Golden Girls. Oh, I hate that show. And I fell asleep in my chair. Anyway, that's the subject. I'm going to get off and let somebody else on. I just want to educate the young folks out there what tuning into a frequency is.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
You're the best, Robert. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. You're the best. Always a pleasure. Have a fantastic night.
You too. Bye.
Thank you very much. Robert has a book. He's actually an author. He's written several books, but he's got a collection of short stories, as a matter of fact, called Stories from a Fractured Mind, the Robert Collection. Links in the description down below. Brilliant dude. I akin it to Rod Serling meets Philip K. Dick, and it's good stuff. He sent me a couple copies, full disclosure, but I encourage you, check it out. It's a fantastic read. What's up? James has been quiet the longest. James, take on what Kelly said and what Robert said and what everybody else said, or your own take, or not at all. Tell me to shut the F up if you want. That's all fine by me. James, and then we'll go right back to Kelly. How are you, James? What's up, brother?
I'm good. My mind is just trying to go in so many directions now at once that it's having a hard time coming up with a lot here. But no, those clips are amazing. And again, it just goes back to, like I said, I really do think this idea of this force is amazing. And I feel like there could be something like that out there. If you think of all the different things all the stories about people that seem to be able to do things that no one else, or that most other people can't do. You know, whether it is precognition, whether they have that, or telepathy, or even in some cases levitation, or even just going to the spiritual side of things, people that have experiences with that all the time, you know. And I'm not just talking about like myself, because I have things here and there, but you know, psychics and mediums and all those things. No, I'm not talking about, you know, that there's a fair percentage out there that are hoaxing, and you know, I'm talking about the people that have experiences constantly. And maybe there is something that does have something to do with why that is the case with them, and maybe even there's just greater or lesser degrees of access to that, and to that energy field, if it's an energy field, that people have, and maybe they can even change over time depending on any number of circumstances, you know. So I think it's a neat mirroring of fiction to at least what seems to be reality for so many people, myself included. So, this has been a great discussion. I love all the calls already.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Good stuff from you as well, James. Interesting what Robert's saying too. Just kind of tune into that frequency, right? It all seems to be out there. It's just how to access it. Real quick shout out to Jennifer over on Rockfin. Said this, and this is an interesting take. I've never heard this. Jennifer said this. Jennifer said, interesting anti-transhumanism theme in the first 3 Star Wars. The other one's not so much. And Jennifer says, I heard that from Sean Stone. And so Darth Vader is the primary character with an anti-transhumanism message. Fascinating. I never considered it. It's good to hear different takes. That's why we do it live, because me just reading some bullshit in a vacuum and then putting it out is a lot less fun than hearing some amazing takes from all these amazing people. So thanks for being part of that discussion, Jennifer. I see you over there on Rockfin. All right, let's go back to Kelly. We're still taking your calls. We got a little bit of time left, guys. 702-957-1037. What about May the Force be with you? What about the Force and precognition? Kelly, what's up, my man? Are you still there? Test 1 2. Happy birthday again.
Thank you very much. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. What else you got regarding this? I kind of cut you off last time. You were onto some stuff. You were onto sort of the Taoism of the Force, and how maybe there's a connection there, and how we all feel it. And I think there's a nice parallel with what Robert said. Is it's in us. It's one of those things where we just need to kind of focus and pay attention, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I kind of wanted to agree with. I was kind of going a little bit that way, but I agree with Robert when he was saying something about it. It is in all of it, and even in the Star Wars, they do they do say that, but it depends. Some people are too busy with whatever's going on. They say that it's kind of like you're too preoccupied with other stuff that you know, and it could be all in your mind. You know, you're too preoccupied with the past or the future instead of living in the present. But everybody has it, you know, and that's what it was another thing we were talking about on another show, but, you know, it kind of linked to the Force where everybody has it, right? But it's being tuned into it, right? Or the other things with, you know, on the opposite side, what they call the dark side, you know, it's kind of like the adage of, you know, the stories of either it could be two dragons or two wolves, you know, and you know, there was a question of which one is going to take over you, and whoever it was, the teacher was saying, well, it's it's which one you feed, you know. So it could be anger, it could be fear, you know, it could be hate. All those things is kind of what the Force says, you know. What if you're feeding into that, or you're thinking of that, you know, you have to. That's why in Jedi way, you have to release all that, so you have no fear of losing any of that. You know, so again, it was kind of, that one was pretty trippy too. But I want to touch real quick on the whole thing too about they talk about the thing about like coming back from after death, right? That's the whole premise of too, like with the Force. It's kind of like the Higgs boson, you know. It's that energy, right? I believe that everything is energy, right? But you're going back to your energy, you know, even when you're after death. The Force, you know, it penetrates us. It's that the whole thing with it binds us, right? So if it's binding us to this body, once you're released, you know, because in this new the one like you showed earlier, the new what's his name? The new show that's going to come out with Star Wars, not Qui-Gon, but confused, right?
Obi-Wan. It's coming out.
Okay, so Obi-Wan, even in there, Yoda tells him that he's going to be visited by Qui-Gon Jinn, right?
Yeah.
That's going to come in part 12. And then when they all died, you could see him that they're in the Force. The only one that could really see him was Luke, right? He could see his dad. You know, he's seen Obi-Wan, and he's seen Yoda. And then when in the other movie, when you know, the brand new movies, the ones that I could not stand, Yoda comes back to you know, to Luke as the you know, because Luke is supposed to be like the crazy guy like Yoda, you know, isolation, and his mind went, you know, that's the whole premise of that. But when Disney got a hold of that shit, man, it went full garbage. You know, the only one I liked was Rogue One, like you guys were talking about, or and the one too, The Mandalorian, where it shows that type of Luke. You know, that's the Luke we should have got, not this. I don't know what this Luke was before, you know.
It was a trash universe. I think it was a reflection of just society at the time, right? The whole world had turned upside down. So they're like, why not just turn Star Wars inside out and put some like hot garbage movies? Because they totally did. There you go. I don't know, man. I don't know. But go ahead. Sorry.
If you can control the Force like that and you can come back, maybe that's the whole thing was, you know, people think that they're seeing, you know, premonitions or ghosts or, you know, stuff like that. Maybe it is the Force that, you know, and sometimes maybe they can accidentally tap into it, you know, because it's such a violent death or something, or some unknowing death that they don't even know. Kind of like the story I sent about, you know, the tsunami that hit Japan. You know, people thought they're seeing wet footsteps, you know, like people were saying the bed was wet and, you know, their husband died. And it was kind of a crazy story, but again, you know, maybe that's, you know, they kind of like, they don't know that they were tapping into like that. But, you know, if you can, that's the whole, you know, and that's like with Buddhism too, you know, the whole thing with, you know, the rainbow body or enlightenment. You're trying to reach that pinnacle part. Or like even they say that, like even the Buddhists, they could put their feet into a solid rock, handprints through solid rock, you know. There's even some stuff that's even in Wyoming where it looks like somebody just, it was like it looked like at one time it was that solid granite was like mud, like wet mud, and its fingerprints you could just see. It's like someone just gouged out their fingers and their thumbs, you know, right through the mud. But this shit is solid rock, you know, and it's still and these handprints are in Wyoming. But yeah, I mean, you hear these stories, you see these handprints in these caves where these Buddhist monks were at. So. And I believe in the Force, you know. For me, I believe in it. I mean, that type of stuff. it's real. I mean, the universe, like we were just talking about the other night, the whole consciousness stuff, where if you can tap into some of that, and people can, at some time it is easier. Maybe that whole metachlorian type thing is what, that they're talking about, that, so it's true, because we all have it. We all talk about it. I believe that we all have the abilities, but you gotta calm yourself. It's just exact same teachings. You have to calm yourself to a point and let go of stuff, I guess, into some point or another, that nothing, that you shouldn't be able to be easily distracted like that. That you should just let it flow. It happened, and then let it pass. You don't need to ponder it. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to argue about it. Even if it was the roughest thing. I know there's some terrible things that's going to happen in life, but it's the best thing to do is just to ease the mind from all that sorrow and pain. And just think of, like, that's why they say, cherish, like, you celebrate the life, not the death part, because death comes, just like what Yoda said, death comes to everybody. It's just how, what you can do. And that's the whole thing, I think, too, is when the life after death is when, they come back and you can see them as them, but, they're like illuminated beings, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's all, again, and it's so cyclical too. All of this, it's back to that reincarnation cycle, back to this idea of, energy. Like I said, the Higgs field, as energy passes through it becomes mass, and then maybe there's that recycling effect. And like, so where would that put in Star Wars terms? Yoda and them came back as sort of this energy being of themselves, like sort of a projection of themselves in. Is that like a projection in a projection universe? Or did they find a way to maybe pass back through that Higgs field and not retain mass in any shape or form? They're just sort of light now, Like that's some fascinating shit right there that turns this whole thing on its head, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's like I said, it was like, it's like the rainbow body. Like when they die, even when those monks, they die, right? They say they don't die. What they do is they meditate, and then they just pass on, and the body dissolves. And that's what's the craziest shit about it, is that their body totally dissolves, and the only thing that's like left is their teeth or some shit like that, and fingernails. And that's it. That's what trips out even science, is that their whole body, all the energy that was even inside it that kept it alive just left it at one time, and it just shrunk. Their body shrink to nothing. That's the crazy part about that whole thing too. So that's why, looking at that type stuff, and and that's actual proof on that is, they have it. It's already been documented. So, and they have tested some of the abilities of people. Like even that guy that sun gazed. I was talking about earlier. They science have tested these people. See what their claims are about. And like I said, that one guy from sun gazing, he did it for 467 days or something like that without eating, just little sips of water. I mean, the mind, or even the guy, that can run through, the Antarctic butt naked, jump in water, that runs on ice, it's
Wim Hof. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, you can, it's all about meditation in the mind to control it's mind over matter. That's the truth. Mind over matter. And and if we're talking about about that, just like you said, the Higgs field, it's crossing over all the time, so I believe that you can control it to where you don't need a body. That's the whole point. You don't need a shell. We don't need a shell. That's where and if you go swing that around into religion, that's where people call it the soul. That's what they're seeing, or maybe that's the whole ghost things that you're seeing. That again, if you go back to that, these people are, like I said, sometimes they're stuck. I don't know, like maybe they, that it was so dramatic to them that they, not that they can control it, but they're like stuck in that field in somehow or some way, or they can't leave or don't want to leave. That it's just so, maybe it's so traumatic for them at that time. I don't know, man. A lot of that stuff is, it touches and goes with that stuff. So for me, yeah, I believe the whole force thing is real in the universe.
Oops, I muted myself. Yeah, and I think that's why, as you know, that's why we have these conversations. It seems like there's a lot of things that are really, really connected, and you just have to pay attention, right? The connections are there. The Joseph Campbell stuff is there. The hero's journey, the redemption from from when we fail to becoming the hero that we want to be. It's all there, right? Like just pay the fuck attention. And I think that like everybody, like Robert and Jennifer and Night Stalker and James and Joe in Florida, like all the amazing calls. The Robert that I mentioned, I'll mention him twice because I usually leave him out and then he gets pissed off. The Robert, mentioned him 3 times. Everybody's saying that this power is within us. This is not some mystical guru shit. It's like, hey, just pay attention, lock into what you're trying to do, and make it happen, right? That's I guess you could call that magic, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a force without being seen. It's kind of just like people say too. It's about with air. You can't see it, but you can feel it. You know it's there. That's what keeps us everything alive. Through the trees, through all animals on the planet. You can't see it, but you know it's there. And that's what the whole thing that keeps everything alive. So it's an interesting thing, man. Yeah, I believe it. So may the force be with you.
And you, my friend. And happy birthday to Kelly. Kelly, our oldest friend, basically. Look, hey, there may have been one person that called in, Rob from Massachusetts or something like that, a long-ass time ago. But I think Kelly may have been the second actual caller. I give Kelly the credit for the first call ever to Troubled Minds because he's still here. He's stuck. And I appreciate you so much, man. Like I said, without you, without Joe in Florida, without so many people along the way that have made this turn into this amazing thing of just people getting together and talking about ideas. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for having a vision that there's something more than just lefty righty politics, man. What a bunch of bullshit, isn't it? You're the best, bro.
Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, and of course, I always got the troubled mind. So yeah, well, I hope everybody have a good evening, and may the force be with you guys as well, always.
Always, absolutely. James, anything on what Kelly said there before we wind this sucker down?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things work out with that. We'll do at the end, obviously, but that outro quote that I found for this, because at the time in the show, we hadn't quite gotten there yet, but it seems like we have now. But yeah, no, I agree. It does seem like... And the point about the different monks around the world, that's something too. That those are really they're almost like real life Jedi, if you think about it in their own way. And I mean, not just them, but just I think they're a good example of what is possible for people. I think it's just that this takes a lot of focus and a lot of maybe just different circumstances, but I think there's something. I mean, that's the whole thing about the paranormal, or the unexplained, or whatever you want to call it. There's something there because there's too many people that have experiences, and I know I say this all the time, and I'm sorry, people are tired of this, but I believe it. There are too many people that have what they call strange experiences all the time, all around the world, and they've been having them since going back to the beginning of time. And I bet you they'll always will. I don't think it's ever going to stop.
Yeah, so. That's a fascinating concept. Let's fast forward 5,000 years in the future when, science has figured everything out, every damn little thing, and all the shit we used to think was magic is now science. I wonder if magic still exists. I think you're right. I think you're right. People are still going to be having these experiences that are, let's say, unquantifiable, right? You just can't perfectly put them in a little spreadsheet of what was definitely this. Even the UFO report, and we know that's the bastion of all things great and good in the world. They had to include aerial clutter. in the classification system of UFOs, because everybody knows there's just garbage flying the fuck around in the atmosphere. I mean, shit, right? It's what the fuck. Anyway, here we are, James. Here we are. I don't know how we get here, man, but we get here. We find a way, don't we?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point as well, in the way that that's been a big debate for a long time too, whether or not science will figure out everything. paranormal or anomalous, and that's a huge debate. I think that's been going on for a long time. Some people say yes, they'll figure it all out someday. Other people say no, they'll never figure it all out. And I'm fine with saying I don't know if they will or not. I also feel like in some cases there is some kind of a consciousness behind it, so who knows? Maybe it'll just shift things around a little bit so that it's still unexplained.
Yeah, and I'm I'm probably more like you in that I don't mind unexplained. I think unexplained is what makes things fascinating. Can you imagine what a boring fucking world it would be if we were like literally everything to the quantum level, to the macro level, to everything was like, yeah, fractals, it's all explained. Science has the answers to everything, and like we can cure everything and all the things. And, like there's, you Google everything and there's actually like a pristine, like actual database, like instead of Google and the fucking bullshit they do, you actually tap into, you just like mind meld into the Akashic record and get the true answers of things. I mean, it'd be sweet because you'd know everything. But how boring would that be, man? Like, there's kind of no adventure there, other than just learning all the things. Okay, I take that back. That'd be pretty hot. Maybe I want that world. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I feel like learning all the things, it seems like it would take an awful long time. So I don't know. It's one heck of a ride anyway.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. What's up? Heavy thunderstorm tonight. The Jedi and freaking nachos. Bless you all. Glad for that, Jennifer. Get those nachos. Put a hurting on them for me. I love me some nachos. So here's what we're gonna do. Right as this finishes. I make up my own damn words as we go. Please don't forget to follow all the fine folks that are links in the description. Again, so many people contribute to this show and make it, like I always say, all these amazing people are amazing in their own right, but then this show becomes something a little bit more transcendent in terms of greater than the sum of its parts. And so please don't forget to give a lot of love to the folks down in the description. Links are all there. James, Jennifer, Algo Rhythm is there. Shout out to Algo, and I see you over there in the chat. What's up, my man? Night Stalker, Robert, everybody. Tam Bam maybe sleeping in today. Get your beauty sleep, Tam Bam. Hey, sometimes you need some sleep. By the way, and this is an amazing thing that I know a lot of you guys stay up late to listen to Troubled Minds. I know a lot of you get up early to listen to Troubled Minds. Tam Bam wakes up at like 3 a.m. to listen to this show. She lives in South Africa. And if that isn't fucking dedication, I don't know what is. Like, I can't think of a single thing that I would want to wake up for at 3 a.m. to be like, oh, I mean, like you guys know me, and James is going to make the joke in a second here, that I'm still awake at 3 a.m. But let's say for me, let's say 8 a.m. You know what I mean? If there's like a show I really want to watch at 8 a.m., I'm sorry I ain't waking up for it. And so I just want to say I'm honored by all you guys that really work it into your schedules and try to bend time, space, the continuum, just to be here and help us do this live thing, this magic that we do together. So thank you so much for that. I recognize it's like I'm doing my thing too, and it's not easy to be here every night at the right time and all the things. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of work that goes into it, but I understand that like you guys are doing a ton as well, and there's so many of you that are here all the time. So thank you for that. I'm honored, and it's a blessing, and thank you. James, I hear a little birdie told me you've got a James tro for us tonight. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
that's strange. It's amazing that you heard that. I wonder where you heard that from.
Hey, I was tapped into some shit out there. I was tapped into a. I turned on the thing. I turned on the thing. All right, so here we go. So James, you got a final take before the James tro? A final take on anything, whatever.
Yeah, I will just say, even for I think people that maybe aren't as into Star Wars as others are, myself included, and a few of us tonight, there's still stuff in there that is worth looking into, topics and ideas and concepts that they really are. There's a lot to go into there, and a lot of good in it as well.
Amen to that. All right. So as we finish, James here, give him a follow. Salcedo Paranormal, links in the description. The paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. And I'm told tonight that James is also a Jedi. Jedi James. That's going to be a T-shirt as well. Jedi James. It's a rumor in the chat. I don't know, man. I can't substantiate unsourced rumors, so I'll just speak them into a microphone on the internet. James is a Jedi. All right. Here's where it ends. The good news is the bad news is we're done. Let's reverse it. We're going to do that for the Upside Down show, James. We're going to say the good news is we're done. The bad news is, God willing, we have tomorrow.
You gotta do the ending at the beginning of the show and the beginning at the end.
Exactly. What I meant to say is the bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. That's really what I meant to say. Just sometimes your brain works in funny ways and you spit shit out backwards. It's that reverse speech thing. Maybe we're due for a reverse speech on Sophia the robot and the rest of that too. Because of course, right? Everybody else needs the Hall Oates guy, the Hall and Oates guy, or no, the Daryl John Oates guy, whatever his name is. The guy from Australia that does the reverse speech, not us. I can do that too. So maybe we'll do that coming up soon, and I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll do Revenge of the Fifth. What Danny says, look into Baby Yoda and iodine. What the fuck? I'm going to have to look into that. If I'm doing that tomorrow, Danny, if you ain't calling in, your ass is grass. Hey, if I'm doing it, I'm sending you a message, all right? I'm giving you a heads up. Giving you a heads up to carve out some time. All right, let's do it. Let's get that reverse speech on Yoda. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, let's roll it. We got a James stroke coming for you. Like I said, the bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we got tomorrow. Here we go. Smashing the thing, doing the thing, and rolling it. Here it is. Here's the music for James. Ladies and gentlemen, James of Salcedo Paranormal. The suspense is killing me.
Always remember, your focus determines your reality. And that is from George Lucas.
George Lucas doing some magic back in the day. Yeah, man. I think the interesting thing about him is he seems to have been at some point in his life tuned into something. And I think, like there's that zeitgeist stuff and there's like kind of knowing what's next, but sort of leading that charge. He was there for a moment, for a long moment even, but it seems like he forgot, right? So it's interesting. So not only can you be locked in, you can also sort of phase out of that. It's super weird. That may be a show someday as well. I don't know. So as we finish, here's the deal, guys. If you want to help the show, don't forget to follow James, Salcedo Paranormal. Links in the description. Thanks, James. You're the best, bro. If you want to help Troubled Minds, there are a number of ways. Troubledfans.com. There's hats, there's shirts, there's stickers, there's all kinds of bullshit over there. If you like merchandise, go buy this stuff. This supports the show. If you do want to do something else, you can sub up on Rockfin, Twitch. You can sub up on what's the other thing? Patreon. Then you get bonus content, bonus shows on demand, which we're doing more bonus shows these days and more than ever. Again, shout out to James. Thanks for him hopping in and backing us up with that. If you want to help the show and don't want to spend money, I completely understand, or don't have money to spend, spread the word. Spread the word. That's the most important thing. Number 2, also listen to the podcast feed, the RSS feed. You can listen on Spotify or iTunes or anywhere you get your podcast. It's completely free, but every time you listen to an old episode maybe you haven't heard, there's over 400 freaking episodes on the podcast feed now, like 401 or 402 now. It's ridiculous. And there's like another 250 that never hit. Do the math on 4 years of work. That's a shit ton. That's a lot. So the best 400 plus are up there. Go check that out. If you listen to them, an old show you never heard while you're making dinner or something, there's gold in that podcast feed. Go check it out. So as we finish, it's as simple as that. Thanks for being part of this. Like I said, thanks for staying up late for us. Thanks for waking up early for us. Thanks for being part of this live experience. To all you folks out there in the podcast feed that aren't, I see you. I see you downloading the shit out of the show and listening. Like I said, the podcast reaches probably 10x what we do live. So just for reference, pretty wild. All right, let's get the hell out of here. I don't know. I think I probably exhausted all the things. So it goes exactly like this. You want to do it, James? You want me to do it?
But be sure, be strong, be true.
Thank you, James. And thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.